Welcome, one and all, to the Sunday show after dark. It's the Sunday show, the one that was just on a minute ago, only this time it's not that at all. It's actually the After Dark show. I'm your host, Forrest, Valkai, and I'm joined today by my dear friends and sunglass aficionado, Austin Archer. How are you today?
It's the daylight savings time's messing with my head. It's bright as shit outside.
Yeah.
I shouldn't have said that in the first 30 seconds. I should have waited to say that word.
It's okay. Nobody knows. Nobody heard anything. It's fine.
Yeah. And it's also 90 degrees in Los Angeles, which it's not supposed to be on March 8th. And it's not like the first time it's been 90 this winter. It's been 90 like several times this winter. Mm-hmm. And that's not cool. No. So yeah,
feels bad, man. It was same thing. It was like 80 degrees or something like that on Christmas here in Oklahoma, and it's bad knowing that we're dying. You know,
yeah,
it's bad knowing it.
Yeah.
I got good news. Just tangentially, just this random fun fact. Last night, Seth, Erica, and I did our live show here in Tulsa, which was an amazing proof of concept for what this could be. This was my presentation here, a brief history of everything we know about everything, aka why I'll never present at LineCon. It was great, went real fun, real well. But it was amazing. Thank you so much to everybody who showed up and came out to support us and to see us. And let it be known, I'm not making any promises too big, but I can say that it went so well and it was such an amazing event that we're pretty sure it was more of a proof of concept than anything else of things to come. So stay tuned for that business, y'all, because it could be really cool. We've got a great show for everybody tonight. If you don't know what this show is, the number on the bottom of the screen there, 720-619-2288, or the web link in the description will lead you to us. It'll lead you to a call screener, who then may or may not lead you to us. But the point is, if you want to call in and talk to atheists, skeptics, socialists, leftists, communists, anarchists, the guys on the other side, the anti-MAGA, woke, liberal nut jobs who don't believe in God and do believe in democracy, us weirdos, what live here in the country. If you want to talk and have serious, hopefully polite conversations, this is the show for you. We don't believe in a God or a gods. We don't believe the Bible is the good book. We don't believe in Jesus Christ. We don't believe in salvation or the need for such a thing. And we want to talk to the people who do. We also don't support, we are over a minute past, so we also don't support the billionaire, pedophile, senile fuckface in charge of this country, nor do we support his Nazi antics and his fucking secret police. Fuck ICE and everyone who supports them, and we would love to talk to people who disagree with us on that as well.
Fuck Forever Wars.
Yeah, Forever Wars. Jesus Christ. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it turns out the No New Wars president just started a fucking holy war, as they are calling it. And we have now multiple whistleblowers from all branches coming out and saying that very high up officials are talking about this being such a wonderful thing because this will cause more war against Israel and bring about the second coming of Jesus. Religious fucking fanatics running this country and running the world into the ground and killing millions of innocent people to do it. We don't support that shit. We think it's really fucking dumb. And we'd love to talk to people who disagree with us. So call that number. Yep.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was talking to my father recently, who went through a deconstruction like 10 years ago, and he's like 10 years into his deconstruction, lifelong, devoted faith practice, and I have so much respect for a guy who was able to deconstruct that late into a very like embedded journey where he had invested a lot of money and time. But anyway, he started with, you know, podcasts that were just willing to have conversations like this and open discussion, ask questions that his church, you know, discouraged people from asking, and just and those helped him sort of open the door to deconstruction. But he was telling me, he was like, I still listen to a lot of those podcasts, and he's like, and I was asking myself the other day, like, why do I still do this? Why am I still listening to these shows when, you know, my faith deconstruction is pretty much complete? I no longer believe the things I used to believe. So why do I keep listening to these? And he said, I think if I'm being honest, there's still a part of me that tunes in hoping there's an outside shot that some apologist will come in and craft the right argument that'll allow me to get my faith back. And, you know, because life is simpler when you can just say, I know why everything exists in the universe. I know how the universe came into being and why it came into being. I know what my purpose here is, and I have a narrative that gives me some kind of clarity. So I don't really need to worry about, you know, the heat death of the planet that I'm on. I don't really need to worry about forever wars. I don't really need to worry about the implications of like whatever tyrannical regime is going on, because I believe that there's a God at the wheel of everything, and it's comforting to have that at my disposal. And he said, so some part of me hopes that someone will be able to give that back to me. And he goes, but the more realistic part of me is, first of all, it's never happened. And he's like, and the more realistic part of me keeps listening, because every time I check in to see if there's any new apologist that's going to be able to give that back to me, it just further cements and reaffirms my decision to deconstruct. And I was like, that's why I do the line. It's like, I don't necessarily need to keep having the same conversation over and over and over again. But if I'm being completely honest, there is some part of me, however small, that's like, I do come on this show open to the outside possibility that someone will call in and blow my mind with an argument that I can't refute, that keeps me up at night for days on end, that I go like, shit, that person did it. They really did it. It hasn't happened yet. And I do have an openness and a not so subtle willingness, and maybe even like a desire for it, because wouldn't it be nice to be able to go, oh, okay, I can be a believer again, and I can believe in the magical power of prayer and faith and the reliance that something bigger than me, someone bigger than me, a designer, is at the control panel who understands this whole thing better than I ever could. And I can trust in that and not have to worry my stupid little human head about any of the scary details. But the problem is it hasn't happened yet. So if you're listening right now and you think you've got it, come save me from my existential torment. Call that number on the screen or click the link in the description. And
that is that's a big thing. I hear that a lot. People are like, oh, well, you know, atheists are so unhappy, or like you see so much more anxiety in atheists. And all this is like, yeah, that's not a slam dunk for theism. It makes sense if you really believe that there's a guy in charge of everything, and that guy knows you and cares. What an amazing salve for any kind of concern, worry, anything. Like, why would you consider the whole let go and let God thing? What a tempting proposition, y'all. Right. And like, if it stood up to the world around me, if it stood up to the reality that I live in, I'd be into it. But like, you know, the reality that I live in, the world that I have to see every day, the world that I wake up to, the news that I wake up to every day, certainly doesn't play to that fantasy. And so it's why when people talk about, you know, like, oh, what would you know, if I could prove God to you, what would you do? I'd be very upset. I believe it. I'd be a theist. That guy has a lot of questions that he needs to answer. You know what I mean?
Well, that argument's also really interesting too, because I get that one too. Like, I'll be talking to like a conservative Christian person that I grew up with who is they'll use look at me and look at you as evidence of who's got whose worldview, whose ideology is more correct. And usually what they mean is like, they make more money than me, they own a house, they provide for a family, they've got like 4 kids, and look at
Yeah.
me, I've never been married, I don't have kids, and I
Mm.
seem on paper more generally anxious and maybe day to day unhappy than they are. And I will just say off the bat that if you're a theist that's listening right now and like that's your angle, I've heard that argument and it doesn't hold water because there is a saying, ignorance is bliss, and like you can avail yourself of some of the anxiety that I feel on a day-to-day basis by just convincing yourself to believe in magic. Uh
Hmm.
and like I also just when someone makes more money than me and they go like, "Hey, of the two of us, look at my salary, look at yours. Who do you think's doing life better?" I'm like, "The most evil people in the world are the wealthiest people in the world." Like I
Yep.
don't it just doesn't hold water. I'm just like if it were true that we could actually quantify this that more digits in your bank account means a more righteous moral framework through which
Hmm.
you view the world and operate and make your decisions. If we could actually substantiate that with some kind of uh evidence-based uh I don't know, data. But we can't. Like, and everything
Yeah.
seems to point, anecdotally, everything seems to point to like there is no correlation between how much
It's
money you have and how correct your worldview is.
if
You know?
anything, is there's a negative correlation. You seem to be a worse person the more rich you are. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's weird, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, and
it kind of seems to be like if you're willing to be a scumbag in any industry, you have a better chance of doing better than people who aren't willing to be a scumbag. Like
yeah.
you're gonna have a competitive advantage over people who have moral scruples about like
Mm.
screwing people over and about uh, operating ethically.
Well, and that's
You know?
that's really that is one of the miseries of capitalism. Is like if you like they people talk about like, oh, it's all this growth and innovation and everything, but you could also screw over your employees and screw over your providers and screw over the public and screw and all these shortcuts and ways you can get around the law and weasel around regulation, and you pollute the planet but it makes you a little bit more money, and you cut a few jobs and it puts some people out of business, out of out of house and home right before Christmas, but you save a bunch of money. And like these are all terrible things, but you're in a system where the only benefit, like the one quantifiable thing, is do you have more money than this other person over here? And if you decide to play the moral game and this other person does all those things, cuts all those corners, screws all those people over, and makes more money, they can buy you out and it's over. And like, that's it. So, like, flip, dude, like that is the reality of the situation we're living in. Is like really the scummier and more evil a person is in this world, you can get ahead really far. And that's what we're seeing now with these fucking Epstein files. Who are the people in power? What are they doing when they have the free time and they have the resources and they know they can get away with it? Are they doing monster truck rallies? Are they doing extreme skydiving? Are they blowing all their money on a giant bowl of fucking Campbell's soup just because they can? Are they doing the most ridiculous childhood things? You and I, when we were kids, thinking about if I had all the money in the world, what would I do? Oh, I'd build the biggest sandcastle in the world, and I'd have all my friends over, and we play Mario Kart all night long. No, it's let's fuck kids. And like that's what it's, you know what I mean? That these people are fucking evil, and like that's that's the world we're living in, man. That's the
And
world
again,
we're living
and
in.
again, they all seem like quite pleased with themselves. Like
Yes.
they don't seem to have the same sort of existential dread and anxiety
No.
that we live with. And so that's why I'm like, if that's going to be your argument, I would say save the call. You don't need to do it. But or I don't know, maybe you've got an angle on it that we haven't heard yet. But I think that is an interesting one where people are like, well, I mean, you guys seem less happy. So what does that mean? It's like, well, maybe
Yeah.
I seem less
Aware.
happy. It's also this thing of like when they in just the political spectrum, they'll say like, well, left-leaning people go to therapy more often. And I'm like, so what you're saying is that left-leaning people are more aware of
Mhm.
the need for taking care of their mental health, and
Yeah.
right-leaning people are uh, lack the self-awareness to give a shit about
Right.
making sure that they're learning tools to be a better person and show up as a
Yep.
better version of themselves, and they're satisfied in their own sort of uh self-created exile where it's like, well, all my woke friends have gone no contact with me and good riddance to them, and
Yep.
they don't miss those people. And it's again, it's just like, if you can live with a certain level of willful ignorance, then it's likely that you can watch the oil fields burning in Tehran and just kind of go like, haha, awesome, cool.
Yep.
Fucking Pete Hegseth says that, we're going to come for all of them. We're going to get
Yep.
every last one of them. And it's like, well, good for you, and God, we still got no calls on this line. So if you're out there listening
We,
and you
we've
think
got a couple.
oh, really? Oh,
Yeah,
cool. We
I
got,
don't know, maybe.
I'm on the wrong one. I need to go back to Colin
That'll do it.
Studio. That'll do
Yeah.
it. I'm going to
Yeah, we
log
got a
into the
couple
correct
people.
one. So,
But like no, it's the same thing as like when people were talking about like all these people with who get their COVID vaccines tend to be diagnosed with cancer and stuff like that. It's like, yeah, they go to the doctor. That's
Yeah.
why they got a vaccine, because they know they trust medicine, and then they go to a doctor and get checkups and shit, and they catch things early, and that's like, what are you talking about? Same thing with like, oh, there's all these new what is it, autism diagnoses. Yeah, we learned how to diagnose it, and now we're
Right.
doing that. It's like
Right.
just people who don't understand survivorship bias and don't understand stats and don't understand how the world works. It sucks. It sucks
Yeah,
real bad.
how come everyone's all of a sudden trans now that the
Yeah,
world
yeah.
is getting more woke? It's like, well, I just saw
Turns
like
out.
a cartoon of it was just like a crudely drawn cartoon of these dudes running around being like, kill all trans people, and they were like asking people like, are you trans? And because it was like the latest census said like people were reporting it less often, and then people were like,
Uh-huh.
no, I'm not. And it's like,
Yep.
yeah, you guys, yeah. Like,
Yeah,
when people
you
feel
get it, right?
safe, yeah, when people feel safe to self-identify as, a thing, they will. But if you make them feel like you're going to kill them for being honest with you, they might give you a dishonest answer.
Weirdly enough, yeah, it tends to force people to be a little bit quiet about it. Who knew? It's
Yeah.
so stupid. We have one call ready to go. We have one person in the screening room. We have one person in the queue. So we got 3 people lined up right now. If you want to be a part of this, feel free to call it. Now we're sitting here riffing and vamping and talking about silly shit, but like we're about to jump in. Number on the screen 720-619-2288, or use the web link in the description. We're gonna start by talking to. I'm gonna go ahead and do line number 5, because that's good for both of us to talk about for a minute, and then do line number 2 after that. Is that cool with you?
Sure.
Sick. Let's talk to Blake. This usually we don't start with an atheist caller, but we are this time because Blake here says that he wants to make a case for Jesus because there are a lot of Christians doing good things, and maybe we can find some common ground here. Blake, you're on the line with Forrest and Austin. How are you doing today?
Hi. Yeah, no, I'm an atheist. I don't believe in our Lord and Savior, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, like, I don't know. In recent times, I've met a lot of Christians that do a lot of good things with their beliefs. You know what I mean? And while I think many of them would probably still do the same things, even if they weren't Christian, I think it can be helpful to encourage that kind of behavior, if you know what I mean.
Okay, so you're talking like we should be propping up the James Talricos of the world and letting people know that that's how Christians should be.
Maybe. I don't necessarily need it to focus on a person, but I mean, I've met many Christians that are very, like, they spend their time feeding homeless people. They spend their time. I know somebody who has let homeless people live with them, because of their Christianity. That's a good thing in my view, right? I like that a lot. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't necessarily disagree with you. I mean, I don't disagree that that's a good thing to do, to have like a service oriented mindset and to try to find opportunities to be of service to people as often as you can. And I don't disagree that there are sects of Christianity that try to encourage their parishioners and their adherents to do that. To me, it's like you can get that elsewhere. Like I was raised in a community that was very service oriented. And like my community was all about like, hey, what was cool about going to church was if someone was Brother Johnson broke his right leg and he can't shovel his walks this week, they would let people know at church, hey, could someone make sure they go over and shovel Brother Johnson's walks this week because he's got a broken leg or something like that. Or, Sister Smith has, I was raised in a church where everyone was called brother and sister. And it's like, Sister Smith has cancer. So we're all going to like take care of making the meals for the Smith family for the next little while. And we would announce that as a community. And I think just in a vacuum, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with the community coming together and giving each other opportunities to serve the other members of the community. It's just when I think to start to give a pass to the dogmatic aspects of that community gathering space, like the core kind of supernatural beliefs of it, because they go, well, they do all this good stuff. It's like they get tied up in each other unnecessarily, because the benefits of community structure like that and communities gathering to help each other should exist and can exist and do exist independent of the stories that are connected to that group. Because the other aspect of the church that I was raised in is we were a group of, it's an American-made 19th century cult that wound up being very successful, a spinoff of Christianity that has its own book about Jesus in the Americas and Christianity in the early Americas. And it's this fictional account of like how Jews from Israel sailed across the sea and were the first people to sort of populate the Americas. And we believe all kinds of kooky stuff, including stuff like we're really harsh on queer people. And there's a lot of racist beliefs in that fictional book that was written in the 19th century, like that people with dark skin were cursed with a curse of dark skin, and that white people have white and delightsome skin. And there's all this just stuff that's like, none of that needs to be there for the community to come together and go and shovel Brother Johnson's walk. Like, we don't need to, like, so I hesitate to link the two, because there's nothing wrong with communities getting together in a place to support each other. I think that should happen. There's just no reason why we need all of the unhelpful, actively harmful, racist and homophobic and transphobic and misogynistic mumbo jumbo attached to it. Does that make sense?
Could I jump in here?
Sure.
Sure. Okay, because like the kinds of people I'm talking about, and like specifically, I have somebody like in my life in mind, right? And this person I'm thinking of, like, there's no bigotries there whatsoever at all, right? Like, I'm not trying to be like nice here. Like, I'm just saying, like, this person does not have bigotries. They are a Christian. I've talked to them about this. I've tried to convince them otherwise, but whatever. We're not going to agree on this, whatever. But they're still doing great things, and they convince other people to do good things too, whether or not they're Christians or not. I don't know. Is that not like, do I convince, like what? Do I, because I can't convince them otherwise, I should stop supporting them? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think first of all, that that wasn't really a response to what I was saying. I get what you're saying. my response would be the same thing where I'd go, I have nothing wrong with the good things, the good aspects of the character of your friend. I know lots of Christian people who I believe are good people with high moral character and who are just good, nice, kind people who just want to do good things in the world. I think Christianity as a whole, as a belief system, has done a net harm to humanity and mankind overall. And it's because of all the stuff that I mentioned, all the stuff that you don't need any of that stuff to instill the value of generosity and a service-minded, service-oriented mindset in a community. You don't need any of the magical stuff or the threat of like eternal damnation or the separation from your family for eternity in order to convince people of the value of just being kind. And so I don't doubt that your Christian friends are kind people, nice people who you don't believe to be bigoted. It's just that they're still believers in an ideology and like a book that openly endorses slavery. And they don't need to, like, that. None of that needs to be in there. They struggle heavily with how to view queer people because there's like one verse in one book that they're like, I'm not sure how to interpret that. And it's just like, you don't need to worry about that shit. You don't need to you don't need to worry about any of that. You could just be the good person you are and leave all the other stuff behind. But because of all of the magical stuff in the magic book, we get all of these issues that sort of make all the good stuff that they do like it's sort of like it's a wash almost. It cheapens it. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
I don't know about that. I would say this person I'm talking about probably does more good things than I do, to be honest with you. But second of all, yeah, no, I get it. I get the fact that, this is an inherently bigoted ideology, right? That if anybody's going to make anything out of it, they got to interpret it, I get that. But, I don't know. I just, and you got this idea down now a couple times, so I don't know why I'm pushing it again. But I'm just going to say, I think there's some good we can find from
the question I would have for you, Blake, is why is this person doing good? Is this person doing good things because they want to get into heaven? Is this person doing good things because they are afraid of hell? Is this person doing good things because God told them to? Is this person doing good things because their book said to do good things? Or is this person doing good things because they just genuinely believe that they are good things to do and that the world would be better if they were to do them? That's my concern. Because if you're telling me this person is a Christian and therefore they're doing good things, and it's any of those other reasons, then they are a good person in spite of their faith, not because of it. And at the end of the day, I would even call their actions pretty, underhand. It's very low-level moral development. So I'm not saying that there's no such thing as a good person who's also a Christian. I'm not saying that Christians can't be good people. I have friends who are Christians. I have people that I respect that are Christians. I have people that I respect that are other faiths as well. That's all totally fine. We can get, literally last night at the live show, we were talking about we as an atheist community, in order to make the world better, we can't do it on our own. We should work with moderate and liberal and progressive Christians and other people because they're going to help us vote. They're going to work with us to make the world a better place. We can't pretend like we have all the answers to everything. We need different voices. All of that is totally fine. But to then point to one individual Christian person and say, this person's really good, doesn't sell me on Christianity or Jesus or anything, especially with what Austin's talking about, in the face of all the horrible shit that Christianity has done and still does. It's just not good enough to say this one Christian's kind of cool.
Okay, I'm not just saying this one Christian is kind of cool. And also, I won't even go through things you just said that like don't apply to this person because it doesn't matter because I'm talking about one person, and you're right. It's anyway. My point is, I think we could be nicer. I guess that's my point. I don't know.
To who?
You guys.
To who should we be nicer? To who should we be nicer? Whom, I guess I should say.
To these Christians that are like, not evil.
I don't think that we are rude to those people. I don't think that we are unkind or not nice to those people. I mean, both Forrest and I have each said on this show right now, like, we both have Christian friends and people in our lives who we respect and who we think are good people. We're plenty nice. Being honest about the fact that they believe in stuff that is objectively silly and harmful to the world is not being rude. Like, I can be like, I know lots of really good people who I think do good things who unfortunately have been taken in and indoctrinated by a very harmful ideology. And I don't believe that me being honest about the harm of the ideology they've been indoctrinated into is rude. I personally just have my personal moral ethic is just honesty above all else. It's just being straightforward, because I believe the problem with a lot of these belief systems is that they encourage people to kind of deal with the world in an inherently dishonest way. And I just think all of the good stuff that you're talking about and all of the good qualities of my friends that I have, I believe that they are good enough people that they could be that way and do those things without all of the other stuff that drags down and sort of smudges their better qualities.
Yeah, I would say, like, it just to say we need to be nice to anybody when Christian nationalism is a major existential threat, both in this country and around the world. When Christianity is the direct cause of so much suffering and harm right now. Weird that you find that funny.
No, like, I want to make clear. Can I make clear? I find that funny because, like, you're saying that, and I'm like, yeah, no, you're totally right. Like,
okay,
it's like, Christianity is a major cause of harm right now, and yes, I'm sure that there are plenty of good Christians out there, but there clearly aren't enough of them in this country to swing the vote away from the dictator pedophile. So, at the end of the day, you go be nice all you like. I will be very nice to people as well, as long as they're nice to me, and my friends and the people around me. But at the end of the day, I'm not going to be nice to their fucking religion. Absolutely not.
Can I just say, like, what you just said, like, made me realize how stupid I'm being.
Hell yeah.
That's fair.
I'm laughing.
No,
I think it's really fun. Like,
respect you for being willing to pivot, Blake. And also, there is this thing that happens a lot with people who are really, really invested in a religion, who are really indoctrinated, who are really committed to it personally, where they have a hard time. So what Forrest just said there, where he said, I will be nice to them. I am under no obligation to be nice to their religion. There's a lot of people, a lot of believers who have a hard time separating themselves from the ideology, from the religion. So when you criticize the religion, when you criticize the holy texts, when you criticize their leaders, they take it as a personal attack, even though you could be saying, I think you are a great person who knows right from wrong and who works really hard to be a good person in your day-to-day life, who works really hard to be a kind, generous person and find opportunities to do active service. I think that the church you belong to has done great harm in the world, though. They can't separate those two things. And that's another big problem of a lot of these churches, is the fact that, like, they get people, the idea is to get people to make the church their identity, that if you criticize the church or are rude about the church, you are criticizing and being rude to me. And I, like, those like, my beliefs about the world and the universe that I exist in, they're not part of, like, my identity, like I'm not personally offended when a flat earther tells me that I'm wrong for believing in the shape of the planet that we live on. I think that person's an idiot, but I'm not like, wow, you're being rude to me personally. It's just sort of like, no, I just think that you are like dumb. You
Yeah.
know. But it's
Right.
not yeah, it's not something that I conflate my personal identity with, you know.
Yeah.
Yep, I get it.
Yeah.
Can I just want to say thank you, Austin. You were very nice. And Forrest, you seemed like you wanted me to leave from the start, but I'll accept that.
I'm sorry to give you that impression.
Thank you, though, and thank you guys for your time. And I haven't really come to a conclusion here, but I'm gonna think about this for a little bit.
Go ahead
Good.
and congratulate your nice Christian friends on being nice people and encourage more
Right.
nice behavior in them. I would say be careful to not attribute their kindness and their generosity to their Christianity. Believe enough in
I
those
don't
people to
contribute
believe that they
it
could.
to their.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't contribute it to their Christianity. I think most of them, especially the one I've been referring to, I think she'd probably be doing whatever she's doing without being a Christian, for sure.
Yep.
Good. That's how it
All
should
right.
be. All right. Take care of yourself, Blake. Thank you very much.
Yep.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, guys.
The person who called in wanting to know how we believe in evolution dropped as soon as we picked up Blake's call. So call back. You were going to be next. I just didn't want to start the show with a call that I was going to be dominating the conversation. I felt like that was rude to Austin and the audience. That's all. That's my fault. I didn't give you special privileges. I apologize. But
That's
call
my
back.
favorite thing to do when I co-host the show with Forrest is let Forrest school someone up on evolution, and I like to just listen. It's fun.
We do have another caller who's waiting right now as an agnostic caller. So we've got, two non-theist callers in a row. But hey, if you're out there and you're a theist, if you're a Bible believer, if you're a Christian, if you're a Hindu, a Muslim, a Jew, or whatever who wants to tell us why we should be too, this is your show. This is the chance for you to show up in front of everybody. This old phrase, I don't know if that's around the country, but here in Oklahoma, we say, come up in front of God and everybody. And this is literally your chance to do exactly that. And let me tell you, if I got half of the calls from every single person who hops on my Threads account, my Instagram, my YouTube, and everything and tells me, I'm going to call in and school you and prove the God, blah, 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 boy, we would have nothing but calls all day long. But let's start with this one here. Lindsay, who is an agnostic, wants to talk about racism and colonization. Lindsay, you were on the line with Forrest and Austin. How are you doing today?
Pretty good. I've called before as a theist. We talked about the platypus, actually. Forrest, we did.
Hey!
So, that's good. I was pretty much on my way out. The last call I had with, as a theist, was with John, Godless Engineer and Born Again Atheist, I believe.
Okay.
So we basically talked, and Born Again Atheist just went ahead and was like, hey, come over here. The water's fine. It's fine. She was my little cheerleader, so thank you, Born Again Atheist.
Hell yeah.
So yeah, I'm out, and I don't have to defend the weird Bible with all of its weirdness anymore.
Hey, that's
which
fabulous.
I'm glad about. So thank you. It was weird
I feel like
for like the first month, but yeah.
I feel like this is that thing where like someone's like, you know what, maybe I'm bi, and then in like a year they're like, nope, just gay, and like I'm just hoping that like that's how this works. Is like I was a theist, agnostic, and next time we hear from you, you're gonna be like, guess what, boys, atheist.
I'm more atheist than both of you combined.
We're so atheist, so big cousins. Anyway, so yeah, my question regarding I'm Forrest, as a science communicator, I've kind of written a little note. So you've probably already understood the scale of colonization and racism that it has on the scientific field as study in general. I unfortunately am kind of getting more into the meat and potatoes of it all. I understood peripherally a bit, and I did start with podcast Hey White Woman from Daniela Mestenek Young and Rebecca from White Women Whisperer. So I started there. I went over to, let's see, Sun Michonne, I believe is his name. He is a Gullah and Geechee linguist. So he taught me about Southern hospitality and how that's ridiculously racist, you know, the things. So I'm just curious about, like, I wanted to borrow a book at the library about Otabenga just to get my feet wet there. I didn't know how to ask to get that, but now I do because I have books now, so it works. But yeah, just like, how do I feel like I'm a fish out of water, and the phrase "the basement has a shovel" is basic, or like the Chris Griffin meme from Family Guy when he's like, "What?" I feel like that a lot recently. Yeah. So I'm just curious.
No, it's hard.
It's hard. I'm also white, by the way. So it's hard. It's like, oh look, Sun Michonne went ahead and said, okay, you you know, white women don't want to hear this, but you are like Bonnie and Clyde. You did own people. I'm like,
it's weird. It's especially hard for us as white people because it's like a friend of mine does a series on TikTok called "Is It Racist?" Yup. And it's like just literally every single part, especially of American history, American culture, our fucking national anthem, the ice cream truck song, like the most mundane, benign things have these genuinely horrific roots. And you talk about Otabenga, that's a huge one. That was so for folks who don't know, Otabenga was an African man. I forgot where exactly he was from. This was back in the early 1900s, when we still had human zoos, which was a real thing, where we would have in the zoo with the orangutans and the gorillas and this person from this part of the world in the same kind of cage. Because look at this crazy, because we just didn't see them as people. And
didn't we also say that it was a missing link, quote unquote? Missing link. Yeah,
we were like, look, this proves human evolution because there's this half-evolved person, and what it really was, he was
from
black,
the pygmy tribe. You know? Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, and so like they would do this a lot, and they would put this person on display, and it was a fucking human, and it's a horrific situation, and is looking back at it, mind-bogglingly sad and fucked up. And so what we do now, like trying to make sense of all this, like looking back, I would phrase it this way actually. The thing is, this was stoked in a social Darwinist framework, which is thoroughly debunked pseudoscience of the idea that, different types of people are more evolved than others. Certain cultures are more evolved than others, and all these things. What we call now just scientific racism, right? Racism under the guise of pretending to be scientific.
I feel like I'm a little more evolved than Jake Paul,
I mean, yes, but that's actual science.
That's actual science.
Right. But like, we would do this stuff. A lot of scientists fucking did this shit for a very long time. And what's cool about it now is we have grown so much that we can look back and see just how unbelievably stupid that is, and we can use actual science to advocate for anti-racist ideology. Like if you thoroughly understand evolution and biology today, and bioanthropology, if you understand what we know about it now in the past, especially like 60 to 80 years, especially, it is so unbelievably difficult to be racist. Like it's so hard because like we have now proven beyond a shadow of a doubt that race is not a real thing. It is a completely social construct. Ethnicities exist, skin colors exist, different propensity for certain diseases, whatever like that, sure, but those are just population dynamics. They have nothing to do with what we consider races today. And that means that we have a lot of work to do. We got to go back and unpack a bunch of shit. if you ever get into anthropology, that is the major lesson of anthropology that I had to learn for the 3 years that I was studying it, was like, here's what we used to think. We were wrong as all hell and very, very evil because of it. Because anthropology was started by literally Victorian men with literally Victorian ideals who would go around the world and be like, you man. Yeah, the men run the village, and they'd be like, "No, we don't." And they'd be like, "Don't be stupid. The men, run this village." They would tell people what they are, and they would destroy evidence when against their narrative, and they would make goddamn human zoos. So,
okay.
If you want to look into the history
about it previously, and you gave someone a book recommendation about like Africa and their cultures before colonization. So
probably so, yeah. But like, I would recommend like, if you want to know more about this stuff, it's not terribly difficult, and it's not just about race. Like, science has a long, dark history of racism, sexism, homophobia, xenophobia. There was a long time where the way that we taught science, you had to be a white Christian landowner in order to even be able to afford the schooling for it. And then we had the same thing with who was able to participate. And so... Does that mean that some people didn't get through the cracks? Absolutely, they did. Fuck James Watson. But still, at the end of the day,
I don't know who he is, but I agree with you.
He's one of the guys who's credited with the discovery of DNA because he and Francis Crick stole Rosalind Franklin's research. And he just died. I think it was earlier this year or at the end of last year, if I remember right. And
by awesome, I just mean it's stereotypical, and like Alexander Graham Bell being like, no, deaf people can't have their own language, which also I found out recently that because of racism, deaf black children and deaf white children were segregated. So there was actually a point that there was the Black American Sign Language, not just all sign language. And then when I brought it up with a couple of white coworkers, they're like, well, yeah, blacks have their own language. And I'm like, yes, originally from Africa, yes. But, like, it's a minority within a minority. What are you doing? Anyway.
Yeah, well, and so it was James Watson. He just died in December 2025. So he just died at the end of last year. And by the way, that whole thing about, like, no surprise that a female scientist was overlooked. That actually has a name. It's called the Matilda effect. It's a thing that is so common. We have a word for it, that a woman will discover something incredible and a man will come along and just repeat what she said and get a goddamn Nobel Prize. And so,
Matilda
and Watson
does that have anything to do with the Roald Dahl? Does that have anything to do with the Roald Dahl book? Okay.
I think so. Yeah. So, like, with Watson, he's one of these guys who helps discover DNA. He helped discover DNA. Didn't deserve to get the only fucking credit for it. But like, he plays a part in this. Massively influential scientist, lives until last year and still has deeply sexist and racist views because he believes that, like, standardized testing differences across races proves that some races are just genetically smarter than others. And I'm like, no, nobody takes that shit seriously. But he just held on to the beliefs of the fucking 1940s and 50s and 60s, and it worked. So, yeah, dude, I don't know.
Like what Kent Hovind and Dr. Dinosaur is doing, really.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, goodness, how many times has evolution been told to you guys? You guys are just now willfully ignorant. But
it is the same thing, and it's just worldview defense. It's people who are really excited about their belief system, and anything that contradicts it has these massive implications, and they're already so bought in and blah, blah, blah. But, like, if you want to learn more about this stuff, yeah, very much so, sunk cost fallacy, and also the terror management as well. But yeah, if you want to dig into more of this, I can try to come up with some recommendations if you like. But, like, honestly, pick up any, like, good anthropology textbook especially, and it should cover a history of this stuff. And you can also look up these particular kinds of pseudoscience, like phrenology, for example, and learn what it was teaching and how it was debunked and how people learn that it makes no goddamn sense. And I'll give it a secret. It's always the same thing. People had these racist ideas. They came up with a science to justify their racist ideas, and then the science broke. That's how it always is.
Yeah.
It's the same thing as like with astrology and shit. I have these preconceived notions of how I and other people are supposed to be. I'm going to now make a framework that establishes what I already believe, and surprise, it has no predictive power. It doesn't work scientifically. And that's what we see with phrenology and with race realism and with all these other stupid ass ideologies over the past couple hundred years that are thoroughly debunked bullshit, but leave a serious stain on science. The good news is learning from them makes us better people and makes us more careful as scientists. We now have way better ethics requirements, and that's huge.
Well, and that's why as recent as the civil rights movement in the 1960s, like a big phrase that you would see on protest signs is just "I am a man." People would have a sign that would say and it was because it was literally that simple that you would have to assert your humanity, your basic, like, not just like treat me like a human, but literally like I am not a different species from you. Like,
That's right. And then, I remember that. And then, I remember, Donald Trump doing the whole, like, putting the Obamas on bodies of chimps or something. And then I was like, awesome, it's racist. Okay.
Yeah, and what's crazy is the same, like, a lot of people, he posted an AI video of the Obamas' faces on the body of, I think they were like gorillas or orangutans or something like that. And dancing and singing fucking The Lion Sleeps Tonight of all fucking songs. And
well, I just saw the picture. I didn't watch the video or anything. I'm like, oh look, it's racism. Yay. Like, not yay, but like,
racists who defend it will come out and say, well, they had all these other people as different animals, and Joe Biden was also an ape. And it's like, great, cool. If somebody tells me and my wife to get, or you, Lindsay, if somebody tells me and you, get in the kitchen and make me a sandwich, that means something very fucking different because you're a woman and I'm a man, right? Context matters. So it doesn't matter if you have a white person and a black person depicted as an ape. Don't depict black people as apes. That's a racial stereotype going all the way back to the days of slavery to justify the dehumanization of these people. It's not fucking hard. And so it's the same thing in science. Like, and you'll notice, even like, humans are apes. I'm going to be careful spreading that message if I'm talking to a black audience, right? I have to frame that differently because there's a context there.
You framed it as humans are animals.
Yes, not you. And so like it's just something we have to be careful about. And that honestly is the biggest thing when we talk about racism and science is like there is no good side to it, but I can say at the very least, people who are actually intelligent and paying attention and are brushed up on this and have some manner of like social conscience, they care enough to take it really fucking seriously, and they do science better. And that doesn't mean they do science in a way that the woke left agrees with. That means they are very careful of who they're talking to, how they're talking to them, what information they're presenting, how they are presenting it, making sure to be as truthful and honest and open as possible and keeping that cultural context in mind, and making sure that we're working for the good of everybody without sacrificing the dignity of some. Like we have such strict ethical guidelines now and it's because of this dark history. So like, again, I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, well, this is a benefit. It's just, fuck, dude. At least it's not what it was.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, I remember learning a little bit about, like, on maybe it was a Pinterest or something that I remember reading was like, we have these regulations, for like shipping manuals and things like that. Like, please don't put people in submarines around like this area or whatever, because people were like, just shove them in there. It doesn't matter.
Yep.
So anyway.
Yep.
I also learned, and I will probably go ahead and I'll email you the link to the paper. I also learned recently that within the Nazi history, there were disabled people in the Nazi party.
Mm.
So,
yeah.
As a disabled person, I'm like, wait, what?
They're Mexican Americans who work for ICE right now, dude. And there were, back in the days of early colonization, we had Native Americans who worked for the U.S. government to go route out their and other tribes. Like, there's always going to be people who are traitors to their communities and who cross these lines thinking that they're doing a good thing. Maybe they're brainwashed, maybe they're greedy. It's not for me to speak on and judge them in those ways. But like, and that is also always going to be an out for fucking losers to try to talk about. Let me tell you, when I talk about slavery on this show, every now and then we get some fucking idiot. The Africans sold themselves into slavery, sold each other. It's like, as if, number one, that's the whole story, and also as if that would justify anything, right? Doesn't make a goddamn bit of difference. Also, what the fuck are the Africans, right? It's like saying the Europeans. Like, that's such a massively diverse group. So stupid. Anyway, that does happen. There are people who, you look at Latinos for Trump. You know, Latinos for Trump is literally a fucking organization. And you know who's coming out now and making a lot of stink about what we didn't vote for? Surprise! Fuck, dude.
Yeah. So again, I'll go ahead and email you that because I didn't read the entire article, mostly because it was a new information, and I'm like, wait, what? But yeah, they had. So that wasn't new to you. That was new to me, and I'm like, oh, okay.
I always thought it was funny that just like at a very basic level, like the idealized form of humanity propagated by the Nazi Party was the Aryan race, which is supposed to be with people with blonde hair and blue eyes, and that's just like not Adolf Hitler.
No,
just like you're not even in the you didn't make it someone who looks like you.
So stupid, so stupid.
Yeah.
God.
Yeah.
All right.
Anyway,
well,
Lindsay, I wish you all the best on your journey.
Yeah, exactly. Again, it's more of the coming to the realization of I guess quote unquote true history, and I'm like, okay. Also, Black Atheist Rants, I'm gonna shout him out because he was the one who was like, no, everything is basically colonization and slavery. Here's why. Basically, people did it because of Christianity. And so the divine doctrine and stuff like that, I'm like, does it make more sense that the Bible was inspired by God or inspired by man to do weird racist things? I'm going to go with inspired by man to do weird racist things.
I think it was Helen Keller who said, I always am cautious around people who claim they know what God wants because it always happens to be what they want to. You know what I mean? And that's exactly when we talk about the creation of Christianity or any religion. It always reeks. It reeks of the men who want to control the world around them, especially the women. That's how it always is, dude.
Yep, and everyone can make their own sandwich if they're able to. Also, a Jezebel is a butterfly.
There you go. There you go.
Yep.
Yeah.
So,
anyway, good on you, Lindsay. Keep on reading, keep on deconstructing. Call us so we can help, okay?
Thanks for the call, Lindsay.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Was that channel that you were talking about, was that Alex Falcone that does the Is It Racist Yet?
Maybe.
He does a bunch of them where he does Is It a Scam Yet? Is it?
Yes.
Yeah, it's a good channel.
Yeah, there's that guy, and then there's Levert the Bassman. I might have been thinking of as well because he does the everything's racist series, and so I might be thinking of the same
You're
people.
Conflating the titles of the conflating Is It a Scam Yet with Everything's Racist.
That might be what it is. Yeah. I'm very stupid and very tired.
Just needed to call you out here and just make sure you get your shit straight. Okay.
I appreciate that. Yes, keep me focused. Keep me honest. We have somebody else waiting on the line, but we still have lines open as well. Again, this call and show is for theists. We have another atheist on the line who wants to talk about something that is pertinent, but it may be an all atheist show today. You know what I mean? I had one person on Threads. I was, posting this specific show on a bunch of things. Every time somebody said Christ is King, I'm like, prove it. Here's the show. You know what I mean? And I had one person who quoted. Do we say quote tweeting or quote threading? Is it what is it? It doesn't matter.
Yeah, who knows?
It sucks so bad. But anyway, this person it quoted me and was like, "I hope my boyfriend calls in because he'll destroy these people." I'm like, bro, let's go. Like it's every now and then I'll get somebody who comments on it is like, "Yeah, I will call in," and then they don't. It's rare to have somebody like put it on the front of their own page. Like, I'm gonna fucking get my boyfriend's gonna fuck you. My dad's bigger than your dad, and it's like, bro. Let's go. Absolutely. Call in right now. 720-619-2288. Use the web link in the description because as of right now, we've got we had an atheist and then an agnostic and then another atheist. That's what it's going to be for the time being. But let's see. Let's see how it goes. We have somebody in the screening room. I have no idea who they are. Maybe it'll be a theist next time. But as for right now, we're going to talk to Lelit, who wants to talk about class consciousness. Lelit. You're on the line with Forrest and Austin. How are you doing today?
Hi, I'm doing well. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
I can.
Okay. Sorry, I'm a bit nervous.
You're okay.
You're good. You're good. We're here for you. What would you like to talk about? What about class consciousness?
Okay. I've been reading from our book club a couple of books, and recently we're reading the Hampton Reader 2025, and there's a chapter called "Speaking Like Children." I'm sorry, I cannot pronounce right. Linguingus Exodus from Capitalist Subject Formation. And the other book was called The Capital Order, how economists invented austerity and paved the way to fascism. And my biggest takeaway, first from The Capital Order, because it's a book about the 1920s, basically World War I up to World War II, right after World War I, and how the British and the Italians basically on the same directory, but one took fascism, the other one stayed liberal, basically, but they both took the austerity measure. From reading inside of the book about how these people created austerity to discipline the working class, I believe that from that, they helped destroy class consciousness from our great-grandparents, grandparents, etc., up through today. And I think that their capitalist education really put the damper on what we were building in the 1920s, 30s, and 40s up until FDR. To me, FDR saved capitalism. I believe other people think that too, but because of that, it helped just destroy American workers' class consciousness. My parents, liberal or whatever, just never talked about any of this stuff, and this is all self-education. And I think that if we can inject class consciousness and name our oppressors consistently all the time, I think that can start to propagate and rebuild class consciousness.
So there's a lot there, and like, when back before like the Depression, we had a American Communist Party and a Socialist Party and all sorts of different people that were way on the far left of things, and that they were willing to have these conversations and fight for these kinds of things. And there's that kind of story, which is I don't know the whole time. I'm not a historian, but like the long and short of it was that, you know, these folks got together to save America during the Great Depression, help build the New Deal and all this stuff. And in return, went away. That was the deal with FDR. like okay, now you guys are Democrats now or whatever. You know what I mean? Just like it, and we got this two-party system as a result. And yeah, it destroys class consciousness, and we especially have that issue after World War II and the Cold War, where the Nazis called themselves socialists, and America was like, "Cool, that's what socialists look like, y'all." And then the USSR called themselves communists, and China calls themselves communist, and America's like, "Yep, that's for sure. That's communism," and it's fucking not. And now we have this idea that we teach Americans that socialism is when the government does things that aren't war. And if the government does a lot of things, then that's called communism. And that's all. And it just, I don't know, man. As far as like class consciousness is concerned, we tend to pretend in this country like classes aren't a thing. And so if you want to talk about class consciousness, you're going to have to sell people on the idea that they are much more close to the homeless person on the street than they are to the billionaire that they idolize. And that's a hard sell, because we believe that there's no such thing as poverty. There's just temporarily embarrassed billionaires. And if you figure out how to do that and have that conversation and make it functional, let me know, because it's a tough one to have.
No, totally agreed. And I think that this is the conversation that we should be having, just talking about it. And I think that while we're not going to get majority of adults to see this or hear this, it's more about those that do listen that can tell their children, because I think it all starts from there.
Yep. I don't know, Austin, do you have anything you want to throw in?
I mean, I agree with you. I don't know how to. It's a big job. I agree with whenever I see kind of they come off as like apolitical centrists in comment sections, because I do a lot of socio-political commentary on my social media pages, and whenever I get comments from people that are like, "Don't you know, man, they want us fighting each other. We got to stay focused. The fight is it's a top-down thing. It's not left-right." And I'm like, no, I understand that. I get that. But in order to get my social class together to understand that it's top-down, I can't do that without trying to dismantle the delusion of the people who are standing in the way of class consciousness. And there's a lot of them. So it's a tough thing, because you're not wrong at all. And when people when they go like, "Don't you get it? They're just trying to get us to fight each other," when really we should be focused on them. It's like, well, obviously the oligarch class is the actual threat. And obviously they're creating all of this division amongst us, and they want us focused on each other. But I don't think that me taking my eye off the ball of what the cult of 70 million or so devoted, sycophantic, bigots who are going to support Trump no matter what, taking my eye off that ball, I don't think that that's going to help create class consciousness any faster. So it's sort of this weird kind of contradictory process of even though the fight is top down, I do need to wrestle with people in a horizontal sense across the spectrum, left to right. And also my fellow comrades on the left, I'm constantly wrestling with too, when we disagree on strategy, and when we disagree on what the best method is going into an election of how should we handle this, and what's the best way to get on the same page as a coalition, and what are our best options here. But the idea of that left to right quibbling is in the hopes of getting us enough on the same page that we can start focusing on the top down thing. But it's hard.
I think it's about changing your language, and this kind of brings into the Hampton readers speaking like children. In this little essay, it's basically trying to revert yourself back to childlike thinking where you have this unimaginable possibilities of I cannot say, about speaking, and I'm a bad speaker, and changing how you speak, and just those subtle differences. And like talking to these people online and everything, mostly that's like wading through the slop. I did that 6-7 years ago, and sometimes I dive back in just because I want to get a little muddy. I need to keep up what they're saying, you know, and injecting class consciousness into rhetoric like that, I think is more of a detriment, because when people speak to the computer screen, they see a screen, they don't see a person on the other side. It's like when you're driving in a car, they don't see other people in cars, they see cars, and road rage happens. And I think it's just about changing your language and pursuing that type of just different structural type of thinking and speaking, such as I have been trying to say more about the capitalist class, the fascist capitalist class, you know, the neoliberal capitalist class, things like that. We can say liberal, we can say neoliberal or fascist, but I think adding the capitalist class just adds that extra nuance to it.
I would throw in there really quick. I would also just say, like, I hope you appreciate just the absolute the degree of like how many people have no idea that the difference between terms like neoliberal and liberal and leftist and how like that, like that's the thing, is like we like to try to use these hyper specific terms. People get mad at me all the time when I, you know, like if somebody says something on the internet that's like, well, liberals always do this, and I respond to it, people will be like, well, they're not talking about us because like, or like, you know, like, they're not talking about me because I'm a leftist. And I try to be like, no, they are talking about you. That person doesn't know that there's a difference between leftism and liberalism. When they say liberal, they mean it as a catch-all term of anyone who is further left on the political spectrum than they are. And they mean centrist, they mean moderates, they mean, you know, neoliberal capitalists. And I appreciate that you understand the distinction between those terms. It's just that like the vast majority of people we're trying to enlist into this project with us know about Republicans and Democrats, and that's about as far as it goes.
Yeah.
You know, conservative and liberal. And that's about as far as it goes.
Which are synonymous with Republican and Democrat. They're literally the same thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, they basically are in that type of sense. And even my way of thinking, that was like that years ago, because you just don't have that proper education, proper people around you. And I'm not so much thinking about or talking about people online. I know this is an online show, but it is a talk show. And I think that gets more nuance into place when speaking to other people. But more importantly, it's about the people in your real life and talking to them and pushing it that way. Not overbearing or anything like that, but just the nuances of everything. And yeah, talking and being hyper specific about language can be bad, but as my self-education into leftism, we'll say, it just proves that words have meaning, and a lot of people ignore those meanings. You know,
words do have meaning.
Welcome to the internet,
absolutely,
fam.
absolutely. Words do have meaning, and the problem is that you have to understand that not everyone you're engaging with understands the meaning of the words that they're saying. So you have to sort of learn how to like, okay, what does that person mean when they use that word? When a conservative says Marxism or socialism or communism, usually they can't accurately define these terms. Usually a conservative will tell you, here's the problem with communism, and they'll just give you a perfect description of capitalism and not realize that they're just describing capitalism. And so you have to like, you're right, words have meanings. It's just that sometimes you're talking with people who a lot of the time on the internet, you'll be engaging with people who don't actually understand the definition of the words they mean. So you have to try to figure out, okay, well, what are they talking about when they say liberal? Even though they might not have the correct definition, what do they mean when they say it? What are they talking about when they say communism? What are they talking about when they say Marxism? And it usually for most political discourse, political discourse coming from the right, they use these catch-all terms that just kind of mean like this vague caricature of like the blue hair person who has pronouns in their bio and works as a barista at a coffee shop. And it's like it's this cartoon character, and they don't actually have a nuanced or detailed understanding of what that is. And so when you take that into consideration, it's like, okay, so you're just talking about like anyone who's mildly more progressive than you are in their sociopolitical ideology, but they don't have like an actual working understanding of what the different terms mean. And so while you're correct that words have meaning and we should be specific, and it would be nice if everyone was operating with a framework where they all understand all of these words, it is like in order to communicate more effectively, we have to sort of like figure out what the level of understanding of the general audience is and sort of use that as kind of a starting place. Not that there can't be content and videos made to try to educate people about the differences between these different terms. There can be that content, and there is that content. That's how we find out the difference between these terms and positions. But yeah, it's like it's tough trying to create class consciousness with the variances in education
the last protest I was at, like the last in-person protest I was at, literally had Trump supporters shouting in my face that the Constitution doesn't protect it. I was telling them the fucking 5th and the 14th Amendments say all people, not all Americans. And I was on my megaphone shouting out, like, the Constitution protects all of us, whether we are citizens or not. And I had MAGA screaming in my face that it does not. I'm not going to have a conversation with this person about the differences between a leftist and a Marxist and a neoliberal versus a classical liberal versus it's not going to happen. We need to agree on whether or not illegal immigrants are people and deserve rights. Like, sorry, you know what I mean? Call me whatever the fuck you want. I agree with Austin entirely when he said, like, when people call me a liberal, I'll correct them all day long. I don't care, because they are talking about me when they talk about, you know, all the liberals are the ones that want to blah, blah, blah. Guarantee they have me in mind. So, like, I agree with you entirely. Yeah, words have meaning, and in certain contexts, that's really important. If we're sitting around the table talking about political science, if we're talking with educated people with different opinions on these things, if we're talking on a political specific show, whatever, like, yeah, lots and lots of reasons. Everyday, ordinary people communicating mainly online, these conversations, the words really don't fucking have meaning. They are just all synonyms for somebody who is opposed to me or somebody who agrees with me. And you'll see that a lot in my calls, especially. I'll ask people, what do you mean by words like God and, you know, heaven, and do you believe in this kind of the Bible or that kind of, because you can't just say Christian. It doesn't mean jack shit to me. And it's the same thing when we talk about politics. Like, I have to break this concept down step by step, because for all I know, you're the kind of Trump supporter who doesn't support this and that. You only wanted the egg prices to go lower, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And you would still call yourself a Republican, along with this other person who's super pro-ICE Proud Boy, you know? Doesn't mean jack shit in the real world, Leolit. So, love that words have meaning, but no, they fucking don't. And the world is way stupider than that, is my whole thing.
Right. And I guess I should preface, is like debating MAGA or even a Republican, just even a blue dot Democrat, can be just talking to the wall. And I think I feel that I'm trying to convey it's more about just spreading the class consciousness so it spreads like the woke virus. You know, it's just about talking about it and bringing it up, not specifically towards MAGA or any of these other gone people. It's just about trying to connect with Gen Z so they can connect to their children. and start that education further. And I think that's more of what I mean. We're never going to really convince anybody unless they have that in their mind that they can look at things objectively. I have debated many MAGA. We have a local podcast here, radio show with Proud Boy type of people that I've talked to, and they're not going to listen. But I'm not there to change their minds. Just I don't think that you guys really try to change other people's minds either. Sometimes it happens, but
we're more interested in the audience because there's a lot of people on the fence that tune into these shows to hear the arguments. Those are the people who inevitably call back and say, "All right, now I'm interested." But anyway, we've got one call left, it looks like, and then we're going to move on to the end of the show. But I appreciate you calling in, Leland. And we'll move on from here.
One more thing, real quick.
Yep.
So my name is Lilet.
I was just gonna say that. I was literally.
Sorry.
I just wrote a message to Forrest in our chat, and I said, "Why don't you check the pronunciation of her name?"
Well, it says it's the pronunciation. I guess no lie.
It says Lila.
It does, but I read it as Leela. I don't know. I don't want to hear you say. You don't know what your name is. All right, I know, and I'm a scientist.
Yeah,
that's right. Thank you, Forrest. Thank you, Austin.
Thanks for the call, Lila.
Bye.
Take it easy.
Take care. Bye-bye. Oh man.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, this next one too, it's like there's something we're missing here. I'm curious to see if it's this conversation, it really is as simple as like, even when we're just talking about people on the left, like realizing that it's like what we're up against is a group of people who don't believe that someone who wasn't born in the United States of America is a human being who deserves rights, and really it's like they also have to be brown. Like a white person not born in the United States of America can have rights, but a brown person not born in the United States, and when you're dealing with that level of inhumanity and depravity, it really does. It's like it makes all of the nuanced quibbling and infighting on the left of making sure we've got our terminologies correct and which version of the strategy. It's like, guys, we just need to make sure we're winning elections. Like we just got to make sure, like first and foremost, and then we can like have these conversations. But it's really hard.
It's frustrating.
And like the people who want to be accelerationist about it, there's all this. So often I'm just sort of like, you don't have the numbers for the movement that you're trying to do. You don't have the popular support, even on the left, for the revolution you're trying to have. Trying to explain over the last year and a half of like why I voted the way that I did in 2024 and just being like, it's just math. It's just like I voted for a candidate who got 75 million votes, and that was, it's like who was that close to beating the guy that's in there right now, and you wanted to vote for someone who like could not have mathematically competed, and I understand that you feel like nothing's going to change if we all can't, but like you don't have the numbers for it. You don't have, so we get into these infighting, these quibbling over like, well, like the most correct. And I'm like, hey, I probably agree with you on most of this stuff. We just got to fucking win elections. Yep.
I think it was, let me double check here. I believe it was Nick Powers. On TikTok, who recently posted a thing showing like there's this massive group of people, all the fucking Jill Stein people and everything. And they're like, well, Kamala should have just talked about if she had just called out the genocide, if she had just said something about Gaza. And he was playing clips. It's like, hey, here's one of the clips where she fucking did.
Yeah.
And she didn't call it a genocide outright, which she should have. Valid criticism, but she did talk about how the death toll is insane. She did talk about how the suffering's insane. She did talk about how one-sided it was. She did talk about cutting off so much support. She did talk about ending the conflict. She did talk and she did it a bunch. And the fact that you think she didn't is something that is also a marketing strategy. So, like, if we're this easy to turn against each other and to fucking eat each other and to not, like, support, to literally sit out of an election or to vote third party, guaranteeing that the objectively million times worse candidate will win, to teach who? The DNC a lesson? Do you think that they're going to fucking listen this time? They're going to figure it out, oh man, we lost Paul. What are we going to do now? You know what I mean? Like, that is absolutely a strategy and a problem within us that we've got to. And don't get me wrong, I'm fucking insufferable. And so is every leftist I know. We're all awful to deal with each other. Like, cause but it's because our intentions are so good. We're trying to correct each other and like make each other better all the time. That's awesome. The problem remains when we then withhold support from each other, because here's this content creator who was a little bit loose with their vocabulary, and that's an outdated phrase that has some history, a couple hundred, and while it is a common phrase, they really should have known that like 200 years ago it meant this other than that's and they get the same punishment as actual fucking Nazi Charlie Kirk fan, like what, you know what I mean? Like, I hate that shit so much.
I'm just gonna read this out loud. This is something I posted to my story earlier today.
Yeah.
And it's a post from Madeleine Hansen, who wrote, "The thing I hate the most about the left is the culture of trying to punish good faith people for not being off the deep end of academic language and in-group signaling. The thing I hate the most about the right is brutal violence, racism, rampant sexual abuse, oppression, pedophilia, and white supremacy." And it's like, yeah, that's how I feel. Is it's just like, the thing that annoys me the most about the left is our just the way that we can sort of cannibalize our movement by the purity culture and being the most, and it's like our intentions are good faith and noble, but it pales in comparison to what I hate about the right, which is like they're just evil. They're just evil people who want to do evil things.
It's so fucking tough. Also, shout out to the person in chat who put, "I'm annoying because I'm perfect, Forrest Valkai." Damn right, exactly.
Well, but also I made a video a while ago about, it was like my definitive response to the protest voter rationale. I made this probably a few months after Trump was sworn into office in 2025. And one of the things was about that, like, I'm tired of voting for the lesser of two evils. Tired of being told to vote for the lesser of two evils. And what I said was like, you will always be voting for the lesser of two evils. Hopefully that is the choice. Like, you are always going to be voting for a person who is participating in a fundamentally problematic system, and a system that is fundamentally like set up to be oppressive to certain marginalized communities. And we are trying to fix that system bit by bit. We are trying to implement more and more progressive policies, but in its current form, you are always going to be voting for the less evil option, hopefully.
Yep.
And that's just what you have to do. You have to determine which option is less evil. Your choice is going to be about strategic harm reduction, not about getting everything that you want. And the fact that it's like, I get it. What's frustrating is watching people on the right get so much of what they want. Get candidates that are like, hey, we hate all the same people you hate, and we'll be terrible to all the people you want us to be terrible to. And then being like so excited about what's on offer. And then having to be a person on the left who's like, I got to get excited about like 5% of what I want being on offer and the rest of it being like pretty distasteful to me. And it's like, yeah, but what you got to do is just beat the evil people first and then fight with the person who's offering you 5% of what you want. And you'd rather fight with that person than the evil person who is trying to kill you. You know,
there's also that whole thing of like, who would you rather protest?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I would rather protest somebody like Kamala Harris, who like clearly is pushable. I mean, I'm pretty sure in her book, she even talks about the fact like, yeah, I should have been a lot louder about my extreme left idea. I should have given into that pressure. I should have, like been more outspoken about all these things. I played it to status quo. I recognize that. Like, would so much rather protest that person. than somebody like Trump, who famously in the first run, offered to pay the legal fees of anybody who beats up a protester at one of his rallies. So like,
Yep.
just that's all. It's a whole thing, and there's so much to worry about, and it sucks so bad. But we've got another call on the line, and lines are still open right now. So this may be our last call of the night. It may not be. We'll see who calls in this time. But for right now, we're going to talk about James, who's calling in to talk about class consciousness as well, who says that we're missing something in the last conversation. James, you're on the line with Forrest and Austin. How you doing today?
Forrest, you are perfect. Just so you know,
thank you
right
for
off
noticing.
the bat.
Thank you.
And also, Austin, your mustache, it lives rent free in my head. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
I was a little nervous. I thought I was gonna make Forrest. You're perfect. Austin, buddy, your face makes me want to throw up every time I see it.
Yeah, Forrest is perfect, and Austin is here too. Let's get into the call.
No, you're both beautiful men. But what I want to take a second is, first, I'm going to challenge a lot of what you guys just put out. But before we go ahead and talk about that part, we talk about that part, I wanted to note. Remember earlier, you were referencing a show, Everything's Racist or something. Ironically, that's what was kind of missing from the class consciousness conversation. The reason why in the United States there's such a negativity towards communism and socialism is actually post-World War II. Actually, a lot of what happened on plantations were slaves revolting for their workers' rights. Like, there was actual organization in that sort of way. And there was a large black socialist movement in the 1890s into the turn of the century. That's actually where you get a lot of the early Black Power movements. And the first Red Scare, we call it the Red Scare, but really, if you look at who they targeted during that Red Scare, it was black people. That's actually when you get what we call the Bloody Summer of 1919, where they had those 13 massacres, including Tulsa. 1921, we have the Coe massacre. I think Rosewood was a little bit after that. I mean, and continually, this is, they'll use a lot of the language of anti-communism, and it's the same thing for the Pink Scare as well. They'll use a lot of the language of anti-communism to clamp down on homophobia, for example. And what we're constantly having a problem with is we think that this is left versus right, as in there's these two opposing forces going on, which is true, but they're not really opposing as much as our country is and the world is fundamentally a hegemony of the conservatives. Like, that is the status quo. That's not there's 50% of us that are conservative and another 50% that are not. It's actually that conservatism is the status quo. And what happens when you have oppressors dealing with an oppressive group, and this is covered in books like Elite Capture, Noam Chomsky's Manufacturing Consent, they tend to hijack the language of the oppressed group that they're using. Like, you see this with a lot with Black culture, obviously. You guys all know about music, but it's also with our academic language. That's why you'll notice that the right tends to steal the words from the left. Right? They tend to take words like libertarian. They take the words like pull yourself up from by the bootstraps is actually a communist joke, and it's things of that nature. So that's why the idea of class consciousness gets so muddled, because there's an active push from the right hegemony to steal the language, to kind of muddy the waters. Like, and you see, and you know exactly what I'm talking about, because like, you guys have to deal with them talking about DEI, right, or critical race theory.
Right.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah. Absolutely.
I think it's definitely true to say, and I've said this before, is like, the word DEI is the same thing now as the word woke, is the same thing as the critical race theory, is the same thing as politically correct back in the day. These are all just code words for the N-word, right? That's what they're talking about. Right. And it's also right to say that, what Malcolm X talked about, white liberals, is as true today as it was then. That, we talk about left versus right, but there's a lot of people on the left who are very comfortable, who want to, they're sincere in their beliefs that the world could be better, and they don't recognize that even if they are on this far left, they are part of a white supremacist framework. Their proximity to whiteness and their proximity to white supremacy still affords them a lifestyle and a perspective and a privilege that they are not willing to sacrifice. And so when they cosplay as a revolutionary, going out here and they get their flak jacket and their red bandana and the blah, blah, blue, they also know for goddamn sure that they are going to be pepper sprayed, tear gassed, beaten up a bit, and live instead of dying like Tamir Rice as a child playing in their backyard because that person was black. And so, like, or Philando Castile, who's, like carrying appropriately, legally, and that's the excuse given for killing them. It is only now, it's very telling. We've talked about this in the show as well with Alex Peretti and Renee Good. Suddenly, 2 white people are killed extrajudicially, and now you have all these white people coming out, all these white leftists, like, very suddenly, this has gotten out of hand, as if they were the first people killed, right? So,
and that's
you're absolutely right.
Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead. No, you finish, please.
No, I was going to say, and that's actually a perfect analogy to what was going on in a lot of the white leftist movements in the 60s and again in the early 1910s and 1920s. Matter of fact, I think the book is Detroit, I Do Mind Dying, when they kind of go over how it was actually the white unions and the white socialist groups that were the first to exclude black people in unions and always ask again for black people to, wait a minute, we have to bargain here, so let's go ahead and lesser of two evils here and pick what will work out for us, but then always the racial component will be put on the back burner, put on the back burner, put on the back burner. And it's that component that I think that people kind of struggle to kind of contend with, why there's so much discontent and why there's also a lack of class consciousness, right? Because we actually not only stand up for one side, we don't stand up for both sides. Not often, not you personally, but this is kind of a pattern. And this is why when you're talking about like the protest vote and things of that nature. Again, I would never shame anybody for voting for Democrats or voting. Everybody, different strokes for different folks. But what I would get into is, if you're asking a group of people to kind of vote against their own interest or vote against their own safety, and in order to quote unquote win the lessers of two evils battle, I think that that's where you're kind of making a miscalculation on why that protest vote exists in the first place. Now, I understand the idea of, hey, listen, this person is clearly less evil than this person, and this person over here will cause more harm. But the problem is by voting for that lesser of two evil, you might be perpetuating the system that creates that harm in the first place to create that greater of two evils. There's a reason why there's constantly a rightward pull of like the Democratic Party, for example.
Yeah, well, no, the reason why there's a rightward pull for the Democratic Party is because of the Overton window, and because because the right has been able to make far right extremism, like full-blown Nazism, a viable political position in America, which means that the entire window shifts to the right, which means that in order to there is no mainstream representation for leftism in America, for actual left-wing politics, but also, like, I talked about this during the 2024 election cycle. Like, I in that video I talked about where I respond my definitive sort of response to the protest voter rationale. I had people who said, "How can you expect Arab Americans to vote for the Democratic Party given what's going on in Gaza?" And I said, "I don't expect Arab Americans to vote any type of way. And any person who has family who has been directly affected by what's going on, I would never deign to tell them what they need to do with their agency and with their vote and how they need to grieve what's going on. Everyone is like, they are well within their rights to tell me to go get fucked, and that they don't want to support the people who have a hand in the slaughter of their friends and family and countrymen." But I said, my counterpoint to that would be, I don't think there is any. I mean, you'd be hard pressed to find a marginalized community in America who has a better case for not participating in any kind of civic duty than Black Americans. That who has been more just fucked over again and again and again by this country in so many different ways. You'd be hard pressed to find a better group of people, a group of people who would have a better case for saying, "Fuck y'all, we're not doing this anymore. We're not voting anymore. We're not voting the way you want us to." And what do Black Americans do overwhelmingly, election cycle in and election cycle out? They vote. Like 89% for the Democrat Party. They show up and they vote.
Let me stop you there.
So you might not, James, but the numbers,
No. I'll tell you the numbers, because if black people voted at the rate that they did for Obama, that they did for Kamala Harris would be president.
Sure, but still overwhelmingly, the black voters that turned out for the 2024 election voted for Kamala Harris. Overwhelmingly.
Yeah, they're all black. Well, yeah, black people are always going to vote Democrat. Like that's not with a question. No black person and there's this myth of the black conservative, right?
Right. What I'm responding to, James, is you said you can't tell black people how to vote when you don't fully understand the history. And I said, I wouldn't do that. I'm not doing that. What I'm saying is black people have every reason in the world to say, I'm not supporting this anymore. But what they do is they still understand that we can't get any of our goals accomplished if we keep losing to the far right. So they show up and they do it anyway.
That's where I would disagree with you, because again,
the numbers but the numbers agree with me. Doesn't matter that you disagree.
I just pointed out that they vote less. So whenever you're talking about candidates, right, you're talking about the number of people that are coming out to vote. Very rarely do you get people that switch sides or whatever like that. You're talking about the proportion of people that actually come out and vote. And the proportion of black people that came out to vote for Kamala was less than, for example, Obama.
Yeah,
right?
the proportion of left-leaning voters that came out to vote for Kamala was less than Joe Biden, and there were 6 million votes that dropped.
I'm actually pulling it up right now. The voter turnout in that election was down across the board, so it was not. In fact, it looks pretty proportional with black folks across everybody else.
81 million people voted for Joe Biden and 75 million people voted for Kamala Harris. 6 million people that voted for the Democrat Party in 2020 did not show up and vote. They either voted third party or they didn't show up at all. That protest vote, that absentee vote is those numbers matter. So a lot of people will say oh, it doesn't matter that we voted for Jill Stein. Even if all the people who voted for Jill Stein had voted for Harris, she would have lost anyway. You have to count those 6 million people that dropped off. And still, even with those percentages and drops off, if you look at the percentages of people who did vote, the 75 million people who did vote, the black vote overwhelmingly went to Kamala Harris. So you can't say that's not true. Yes, it is. It is true. The people who vote, it just is true that black America overwhelmingly still shows up and does their job. Election cycle in and election cycle out. Even though they are one of the communities that has every right. You understand the difference
in what I'm talking about, though, right? If no one's saying that black Americans will vote for a different candidate, they will always vote for the Democrats, but it's just about the number of them that choose to come out to vote. So
it's the number of everybody that comes out to
the
vote.
Number of everybody, though. It was down across the board. It was down across the board.
Isn't it true that in Trump's first election, the people in my age group, millennials, there were more millennials registered to vote than the total number of people that came out to vote, if I remember correctly. So take race out of it, every single time there is a major group of people who talk about making serious change, we have a serious voter turnout issue, period. And when people do turn out to vote, things generally get better and much more left-leaning. That's just that's true all the time.
I don't know if I agree with that statement either. I think that generally that the most of the times that we get the largest expansions of rights, they tend to happen at civil upheaval, right? For example, it wasn't the civil rights bill being enacted that actually got us all of our rights. It was actually what they added to the civil rights bill after they assassinated Martin Luther King, and they rioted for months. That's why most of the civil rights bill is about rioting. Matter of fact, that's why in his book, Where Do We Go From Here, he actually talks about how he regrets a lot of the actions of the civil rights bill, right? This is a common, kind of philosophical point that goes back and
I was going to say, I don't know enough about that specific talking point to say one way or the other to make a case on it. What I can say for sure, though, is that, yes, I agree. There is when we're talking about class consciousness, when we're talking about bringing people together, when we're talking about uniting the left, when we're talking about all these things, yes, there is absolutely a conversation that needs to be had about race, because even within left-leaning circles, racism is still a problem, and we still live within a shitty white supremacist hellhole of a country, and that is something that needs systematic structural dismantling piece by piece, and it's going to take a long goddamn time. I agree with all of that.
And you're not going to do that by losing the election to Donald Trump.
Right, and so, but where my main idea is, and where my focus is, as a result of that, is getting more people out to vote. Period, and especially getting young people. I would say young people in general, but just like all of us, the folks that listen to shows like this, God, fucking weirdos that we are. Like, getting us politically active is so much more important than like any amount of infighting could ever be. Is all I'm saying.
And that's a great point. And actually, I want to, that is a fantastic point. And it is exactly, how do we get people active and motivated and out to vote? And for me, that's going to be by appealing to their material needs, right? Like, and that's where I think we obviously both agree. Organizing is going to be the best way of reaching people, and the best way of reaching people is going to be like, meeting them where they're at on the ground. And unfortunately, and you probably again agree with this, there's a huge disconnect between what the DNC is doing with its base. Again, not saying that anybody here has like great love for the DNC or that should be the end all be all, but that's like kind of the point, right? If the DNC was actually focused on meeting the material needs of its base would come out to vote for it.
Well, the DNC has been making gains in major key areas across the board in the last few cycles, and the Republicans have been taking a beating, and that's why they're trying to rig things for the midterms, because they see the writing on the wall that the American people are not satisfied with what's going on right now. There's so much regret for people who voted for Trump, but again, even just in the 2024 election cycle, we're looking at a campaign that was run in like 6 months. And it pulled out 75 million people to vote for it. And the idea that like, they blew it by not exclusively catering to the furthest left, constituents on the left voting bloc. What people I feel like fail to understand about the voting coalition and voting bloc on the left all the time is that we are so much more diverse than the voting bloc on the right. The voting bloc on the right is like 90% white Christian heteronormative people, or at least outwardly presenting heteronormative people. And the voting bloc on the left is everyone else. It's every religion, it's every race, it's every culture, it's every and every political persuasion. Like, it is so much more difficult to form a platform that's supposed to appeal to the amount of intellectual and cultural diversity on the left than it is to form a platform that appeals to the homogeneity that exists on the right. And the fact that they're able to do it at all, the fact that they're able to offer anything that like even feels remotely like it's offering something for everybody, given the fact that the vast majority of those people are people who couldn't tell you the difference between terms like neoliberal and liberal and Marxist and communist. And
most people can't. You're absolutely right.
Yeah. And you've got to talk to those people as well. And so whenever I hear this thing of like, well, if they would just cater to us, they would win. It's like, well, then why aren't your candidates winning? Why are your candidates struggling to get 1 million votes?
Let me ask you a question directly, because I think that you may misinterpret it. Maybe this will kind of get to it. Do you think that when people say that the DNC failed to campaign correctly, that they're talking about the fact that the DNC didn't capitulate to the furthest leftist points, or is it that they saw the DNC moving towards the right on points like immigration, points like when the trans rights thing, when Kamala said that she would go by the law and go by the states? Like, do you think it's more of we didn't get what we wanted, or we saw what we feared?
Oh, no, no, I get it. And I agree with all of those things, but I just go like, do you think that Kamala Harris is going to come into office and on like the first day in office do an address where she goes, under my administration, men are going to be men, women are going to be women. We're going to get men out of women's sports and because that's what happened with the Trump administration. And I just like anyone who says like, it would have been just as bad, you guys wouldn't have cared, I just don't think is dealing with this in a serious way. I had all of those same misgivings.
Do you think that that's what's being said though?
That is what was said with the Trump administration. And what I'm saying is,
I'm saying, do you think that people that are criticizing her think that she's going to be the exact same thing?
No, I get the criticism. It comes down to the fact that, like, there were two possible worlds on November 7th of 2024 that we all could have woken up to. There were two possible worlds. There was a world where, like, little black girls all over the country woke up to see a woman who looks like them elected to the most powerful position in the country and, as far as they know, the world for the first time in the history of the world. And it means something so spectacular to, like, what's possible for them. There's that world they could have woken up in, or there's the world where we could have reelected a man who's been credibly accused of sexual assault 30 times, held liable for sexual assault in court, who's mentioned 1 million times in files that repeatedly accuse him of serial child rape, a man who has spent his life conning and grifting and lying and just a gross, old, evil fuck. And that we already know was evil, and those were our two worlds that we could wake up in. There was no world where we were going to wake up with Jill Stein as president. There was no world where we were going to wake up with Cornel West as president. Those were the two worlds we could have woken up in. And because you didn't like some of the stuff she said in some of her interviews, you chose to let's wake up with the fucking Antichrist as a president. And I just look at that and go, like, fuck that shit, dude. Like. Yep.
I think there's a deeper question here, and I think that the deeper question that I think that's getting missed here is, would, for example, Zoran Mamdani have won his election had Kamala won? There's a question about if
he would have.
I think he absolutely would have.
I don't think.
Give me a fucking break. Based on what? Like what? Why?
People want that. People want somebody who is that left leaning. Kamala, if anything, was always a compromise.
Oh my god.
I think
we knew Kamala was a compromise. We knew Kamala wasn't she wasn't offering what we wanted. It was just like, hey, these are the options. This is how it works. It's the same every 4 years. It's gonna be one of these two people. And it couldn't have been a more obvious choice. And the fact that we fumbled the most obvious choice in the history of American politics is so profoundly upsetting. And the fact that almost 2 years into it, we keep having the argument of just like, did we do the right thing or not? It's so fucking stupid. I'm sorry. It's so dumb to pretend like we didn't fuck this up. That like the choice wasn't as obvious as it was. Nobody said we didn't
fuck this up.
That's what you're doing here on this call. You're like, well, if she hadn't said this, or like you're trying to retroactively justify.
I'm not retroactively justifying anything. I'm pointing out that is it possible that going along with the Democratic Party, for example, like under Biden, for example, we agree Biden is fundamentally better on trans rights issues than Donald Trump, correct? Right. But all of those anti-trans bills went on under Biden. There's something about the way that group of moderates capitulate to the right that is actually problematic. And whereas in the short term, it reduces harm, in the long term, it can perpetuate more harm.
James,
fact, that's why they have the conversation about things like, that's why Martin Luther King talked about white moderates. That's why Malcolm X talked about liberal foxes. This is why Audre Lorde talked about not tearing down the master's house using the master's tool.
James, I don't disagree with you. What's your solution for how we were supposed to get ourselves out of the pickle we were in November 2024? We had two choices. I don't disagree with you. There were two choices on the table. How do we fix that predicament? People had to go to the voting booth and pick one of two options, and it was going to be one of those two options. You couldn't fix it starting in June of 2024. It was too late. It was going to be her or him. And what's your solution for that? I don't disagree with you that there are problems with the DNC capitulating to moderate policies that are unpopular and that people don't want. You've got her or him. How do you fix that? How do you get around that? What's your solution for that?
I think that the solution, is when people don't like their options, they don't play the game.
Yeah. And those people are fucking idiots. They're why we are here now. Those people were wrong. And their inability to take accountability for their wrongness is a huge problem that we face going into the midterms and going into the 2028 election, where Donald Trump wants to run a third illegal time. Those people not taking responsibility for how drastically wrong they were in 2024 is a huge part of this problem. And I think you're one of those people and you're trying to justify how wrong you were and saying, "Oh, it was their fault for not giving me all of the things that I want." I don't disagree with you. You knew what the choices were, and to pretend like we would not be safer today with a Harris presidency than we are right now under what's happening, to pretend like everyone that says like, "Oh, it would have been just as bad, you neo shit libs just wouldn't have cared." Fuck the fuck off. Get serious. Are you kidding me? You seriously?
Did I ever say that we wouldn't be safer
Yeah, but
under
that's what
Kamala
you're
Harris?
arguing. That's what you're arguing, though. You're trying to justify why you voted the way that you voted in 2024.
That's not what I'm arguing. That's the argument you're creating because you don't like what I'm saying.
What are you saying,
I never
then,
said
James?
we would
What
be.
am I missing?
I never said that we wouldn't be safer under Kamala Harris. I said that under Kamala Harris, it's a lot of these issues. Like I was pointing out the Zohran Mamdani thing. I actually don't believe he wins if Kamala Harris is. I think Zohran Mamdani is a reaction to Kamala Harris losing.
I
don't
strongly
think
disagree with you, James.
I think this wave of
reason why. There were so many left. First of all, did you vote for Kamala Harris?
Yep.
Okay, great. So we got that. At least you're not a third-party voter. At least we're there.
All right.
But what I'm trying to understand here is Kamala Harris, I think we all agree, would have had a larger voter turnout, especially from from people like us, if she had been as outspoken, as vocal, as far left as Zohran Mamdani is. And again, Zohran Mamdani isn't even very far left. He's a democratic socialist. He's much farther left than most politicians in this country. He's not even close to as left as like I would want to go. But holy shit, he's better, right? So, like, if Kamala Harris had been that far, I think she would have gotten elected. Even if she hadn't gotten elected, clearly that kind of politics is important because the left is not known for being as reactionary and, well, fuck you, I'll show you by doing something really stupid and crazy as the right is. As we see right now with Trump and his entire administration and a lot of his fan base, a major argument is we're owning the libs. It doesn't matter how bad we're going. We're doing it to piss liberals off. We don't get that out of leftist politics. It just doesn't happen. So, like, the idea that we could have lost Zohran Mamdani by having a Harris presidency, first of all, even if that was true, I think the presidency would have been worth it. It's a much higher office and it has more effect. But also, that's simply ridiculous to say these super far left people that didn't support Harris because she wasn't left enough wouldn't have then also supported a democratic socialist. Like, that's silly.
Wait. I don't think that everybody that chose not to vote for Kamala Harris was super far left. Matter of fact, I would wager to say most of the black.
There's a massive voting block of them, and they're gonna be in places like New York.
I would wager to say that the group of people, like when we were talking about voter turnout in the black community, for example, that the vast majority of those people that did not turn out, that would have again been enough had they voted in the same number as they had voted before, gotten Kamala Harris elected. I don't think any of them know, the vast majority of them, if I use the word Marxist or critical theory or any of that, would have any idea what I'm talking about. So we can't sit here and say that.
But we're not just talking about black people there. We covered this earlier. Right. There was a reduction in voter turnout across the board.
Right. And I don't think that the vast majority of the people that chose not to come out, the voter turnout, had anything to do with capitulating to far left policies. Far leftism is radical and in a major minority, right? So it's not that, it's that the Democrats aren't appealing to the vast majority of their base. They aren't energizing the majority of their base. And had they gone on, like, again, in the Biden
you know
campaign,
who did energize a majority of his base? Zohran Mamdani.
Donald Trump.
And would have done so also if Kamala Harris had been elected. This is just a weird hypothetical that I just don't see where you're getting your conclusion from, and there's no way to test it in the first place. The point is, like, we all agree People should vote more, especially left-leaning people should vote more. We're all on that. We're all on the same page that left-leaning people should get their shit together and stop fighting each other as more than they're fighting the right. We're all on the same page with that. We're all on the same page that the DNC isn't leaning left enough and that they keep, rather than trying to bring in the far left, they capitulate to moderate right. And we all agree that's a problem. It causes a ratcheting effect where the country goes right further and further, and all the Democratic Party does is stop it from going back to the left at all. We all agree those are problems, but trying to pin the blame on any one voting bloc, especially black voters, or trying to blame, like, to say that this would have been so different if Kamala had gotten elected, or that there's some net positive to any of this, or that the right is doing something better by just being outwardly fascist. I'm sorry, man. I'm not on the same page with any of the conclusions you're drawing here.
Yeah, and I just would add to that, James. I would just really quickly, I'd just say, I haven't disagreed with a single thing you said about mistakes that were made in the campaign or things that could have been done better or things I wish she had said that she didn't say. Whenever we get into the thing of relitigating, like what she should have said or what she could have said, I just come back to, it doesn't really matter. You knew what the choices were. The choices were the choices. And anybody, like, at the end of the day, when the campaign is run and all is said and done, and you have to turn in your ballot, you have to show up or either turn in your mail-in ballot, you have to deal with what was said and just look at the ramifications of the choice on the table. And the fact that 6 million people who voted for Joe Biden decided, I'm sitting this one out, those people fucked over the entire country with that sort of just childish, like, well, I didn't like her answer to this question in this particular interview that I watched. And what I say to those people is, I don't fucking care that you didn't like her answer to that question. And I see people even in the chat going like, well, she should have done this or she should have done that. I don't disagree with you on what could have been handled better or should have been handled better. Where I disagree with you is you knew what the choices were come election day, and there was only one clear choice to make. And if you didn't do that, you messed up.
Yeah. And this is where I think our fundamental disagreement comes from, because I cannot blame a voter for not having who's not getting their needs met.
I can.
And
I will all day.
Okay, that's fine. And I would instead blame the politician for not doing politics well.
Yeah, sorry, the politician can't meet the needs of 81 million people individually perfectly. That will never be the case. There will always be something.
I think that right now you're doing a hyperbole again, because the argument is not that they need to do. The argument is not that they need to do everything perfectly. The argument is you don't need to capitulate on immigration. No, it's not. I said you don't need to capitulate on immigration.
It doesn't.
You don't need to call Gaza genocide. You just need to not shout. You just need to not shout down like the protesters at your thing.
The point remains that those people valued whatever the fuck one thing that whatever hang up they had, whatever needs they had that weren't met, whatever issues they had, they valued that over the lives of trans people, of immigrants, of disabled people, of everybody in Palestine, of everybody in Iran, of everybody around in fucking Ecuador and Colombia. And it's just, at the end of the day,
Venezuela.
They picked Venezuela, right? They picked a thing, whatever that thing was, and said, you know what? Here's one candidate that isn't quite good enough for me, and here's another candidate that is exponentially worse in every way, including the things that I don't like about this other candidate. I guess we're just going to let it fucking ride. We're just going to I'm going to throw my hands up. If I don't pull the lever, then I guess the trolley running over these people isn't my fault. And at the end of the day, I'm just not going to participate because everybody's lives are worth a little bit less than my moral high ground.
And I will blame that voter.
That we have.
I'll blame that voter every day.
I think that what you're doing is the exact same thing that the white socialist groups or the white unions and everything that we're talking about, when we continue to say that you're asking groups of people to make accommodations to put their immediate, whatever it might be, to the side for the quote-unquote greater good, because it never actually comes around to helping that group out. And I think that's really unfair.
We even made exceptions to this, I believe, at the beginning of this call, when we talked about Arab Americans and how absolutely at a certain point when you are directly impacted by this in a life or death way, we understand your hesitation. We understand the issues you have. And you can find clips of me during the election saying exactly that. I'm willing to make exceptions to this rule here to say somebody who is directly impacted, them or their family, in life or death ways. If Kamala Harris had come out and said everything that I want her to say, every perfect thing, but she was like, and also we're going to have to raise the price of insulin, I'd have been fucking furious about it. Probably still would have voted for it, but if you're diabetic, I get it. If you don't, like, at the end of the day, like, anything, I have to say that as from my position and from the position of the vast majority of Americans, it was fucking better than Trump. And not just the vast majority of Americans, the vast majority of everybody around the world, it was fucking better than Trump. And so if somebody's going to say, she didn't say this one thing that I like, she didn't condemn this one evil enough, whatever it may be, and pretend like she is now on the same level as Trump, I want whatever drugs they're smoking, because that's fucking crazy.
Forrest, no one's saying that she's on the same level as Trump. No one's saying she's at the same level as Trump. But what you're doing is you're collapsing a myriad of groups.
When you don't vote for her, that is what you're saying. When you don't vote for her, that is what you're saying.
What I'm telling you is you're collapsing a bunch of people's issues into, as for example, right? You said Arab Americans, right? There are a lot of Black Americans that have direct issues with Kamala Harris and the Biden administration for the actions that they've took. There's a lot of Indigenous Americans that have issues with the Democrats and the Biden administration for things that they took.
Agreed.
If you can make exceptions for Arab Americans, then you can make exceptions. Now, I agree that there are tons of.
I literally am trying to explain to you that we understand this is a generalization, but the thing about this is that we're talking about over 300 million people here, right? And so we have to kind of make some generalizations. At the end of the day, we're willing to make concessions for individual people who have direct ties, blah, blah, blah. We've already said this a couple of times. The key here is that when you don't vote for Kamala Harris, you are saying she is as bad as Trump, because you're allowing Trump to come in her place. People are dying in concentration camps right now because a lot of people said, at the end of the day, it doesn't fucking matter anyway, it might as well be Trump. And that's simply not the case. What we're making a concession for is not you have this specific case and therefore you're just too stupid to get it, or you get a free pass on morality. It's that you're between an impossibly rock and hard place situation, and you're terrified for your immediate safety in this actual serious moment. That's something I can get, and I can say, hey, I get it, you're fucking scared. That is not even remotely the same as saying, listen, I have a history of this thing, I see the issues here, whatever, but fuck it, you know? And that is what we're talking about. We talk about protest voters, third-party voters, people who don't vote, people who write in Alfred E. Newman, whatever the fucking thing may be. That is who we are talking about. And that is the vast majority of cases here.
About the subset of people that you're talking about are white Americans, and we get that. Sure, that's fine. If you want to yell at them for not, I agree. They should participate in electoralism exactly because of all of the things you just said. But what I'm pointing out once again is, for example, if the Black community voted at the rate that they did before, she would be president. And a lot of the reasons,
I cannot get over the fact that you keep trying to bring up this fucking, you keep trying to outwoke us on this fucking, like, no, there's this major racial component you're talking about, and it's really the Black people's fault. As we've said several times,
it's not really Black people's fault. There's a bunch of different groups.
Everybody voted less, and yet you keep bringing up, if Black Americans voted more, then we would have had a right, but fuck off. No, everybody dropped the ball here. Everybody stayed home. Everybody lost it. Everybody played the fucking finger-pointing game. Everybody sucks in this scenario.
And
we all fucking bear the burden of it.
No demographic more consistently swallows the jagged, uncomfortable pill of doing their civic duty and holding their nose than Black Americans. Like, nobody more consistently shows up and goes, this is not ideal for me in any way, but I understand the choice that is being placed before me, and I will vote for the person I would rather argue with, I would rather organize under, I would rather push against, I would rather try to influence to pass some form of progressive policy. So
So can we make some agreements? Can we just make some agreements? Because I think that this is getting off into places where I think that there are some misunderstandings on both sides about what the other person is saying. So let me try to find this consensus ground here, right? All those things that we said, agreed. You said you will hollow out exceptions for the groups that feel that they have immediate harm done to them, right? Like that
the individuals.
That if it's a
what I said more specifically is that I won't tell those people how they need to vote. I won't say you need to do your duty. I would still say my hope would be that they could recognize that of the two options placed before them, one option is going to be safer for them than the other one. But I will not evangelize to them or like beat them over the head with it. So there's a little bit of a different thing where I'm going to say, go ahead and do what you feel like you need to do. I still hope you can recognize that you're safer with one option than the other. But so
I think that where we're missing each other is because in my experience, the people that are choosing not to vote tend to be, I think, the groups that you are carving the things that you are just saying that you won't tell those groups how to vote. So when you talk about protest votes in the first place, okay.
No, the people I'll be completely honest with you. The people I'm the most upset with are white leftists who like
and we just said we agree.
Yeah. Like there's no one I'm more upset with than white people who are like, I'm willing to throw trans people, disabled people, immigrants, like everyone under the bus because I feel like I've got this moral stance about Gaza, even though I'm also throwing everyone in Gaza under the bus because objectively Trump is going to be worse for their safety.
I think the reason why this is the reason why, and let me just break this part down. Whereas I think the reason that those feelings are different, where we were seeing two different things, is the group of people that often talk philosophically about whether or not it's worth it to participate in electoralism. That group of people tends to be like, again, from my perspective, I see this in Black philosophical thought a lot, right? Whether it be like me reading Malcolm X or Fanon or Audre Lorde, like there's a lot of that conversation. So there may be a problem here where I am falsely equivocating, right? Where I see, when you talk about protest vote, again, I see people of color, I see marginalized communities like trans people, I see all of those groups that talk about this, and they talk about how voting never gets them what they need. Voting never gets them their rights, and they get frustrated and they feel like not participating in the system because it doesn't get them what they need. What you see is white whining leftists online, and I think we both agree that they're the problem.
Yeah, sure.
Hey, Henry Hansen in the chat, you're dumb as all fuck. Because you're exactly the person we're talking about. If we want to find some common ground between Austin, James, and I think we all have some common ground that Henry Hansen in the chat is the dumbest fucking person here. You're exactly what we're talking about. Why should I vote for Trump or Kamala? They're both awful. I totally despise both parties. I voted for Jill Stein, a woman. Yeah, fuck you. Fuck you, and you're the reason why the parties suck. You're the reason why we're in the situation that we're in today.
I voted for a woman too, you fucking idiot.
Let me point out, like to anybody listening to this from the audience. Let me be clear. No one on this side of the phone that's talking right now, which is me, is ever saying Kamala Harris is just as bad as Trump. If you think that, you're stupid. Like
seriously,
obviously the Republicans are worse. But again, like I was saying, like when Malcolm X talks about the foxes and the wolves, right? When he talks about dealing with conservatives and dealing with liberals, right? That's the more nuanced conversation that I think is being had. And I'm realizing now, I don't think that that's how that conversation happens maybe in these spaces. And that's perfectly fine. So maybe we can both kind of find that common ground there.
Sure.
Maybe.
Yeah. I agree that it's like, there's no one that it's easier for me to, I feel like I am allowed to be the most mad at white leftists. And so that's where most of my, anger and frustration gets focused. And those are the people that I see usually are the ones making videos about me and why I'm wrong. And so it's a lot, but I do default to saying when there's a community that's more marginalized than me and that stands to suffer more than me, I go, my position is I'm not going to tell you what you need to do, but I would still hope that you can understand strategically where you have the best chance of advocating for the kinds of policies you would like to see eventually. And you talked earlier in this call about how the DNC keeps capitulating further right. And there is this problem with the Overton window where because the Overton window is a viability window, and anytime you let far right authoritarian fascist politicians win mainstream elections, and you make that a viable political position, you move that Overton window so far to the right that like the most far left viable position is center right. And that's just what happens as a necessary consequence of that, because the viability window is only so wide. And that means that all of the policies that people who are more marginalized than me want to see enacted are a far ways off. What you need to do is win in consecutive cycles, not just once. You can't just go, we voted for Joe Biden, we gave him 4 years. That's not going to cut it. You need like 12 to 16 years of consecutively nudging that window back, starving the far-right authoritarian fascist position of its viability so that they go, okay, we can no longer win while being openly Nazis. We've got to tone down the rhetoric a little bit and soften up our positions over here on the right. That means that if they're moving in, these get to move over. And you get to start going, okay, now we can actually have candidates that are a little bit more progressive. But every time we panic and hit the reset button every 4 years, when things aren't a perfect leftist utopia after 4 years of a Joe Biden presidency, it drives me nuts. It's like, I just want to, like obviously we weren't going to.
Is that really fair, though? Because we had 8 years of Obama and we had 8 years of Clinton. And I would argue that a lot of the reason why...
I said 12 to 16. I said 12 to 16 on the low end. I didn't say 8.
So you're saying we need to have two presidents that have consecutive double elections.
You've got to win and then win again and then win again and then win again. It's not enough to just pass the ball back and forth every couple of years. That's not going to get it done. As long as the far right position is a viable position, as long as you can be a Nazi and win an election in America, there's no reason for the Overton window to shift to the left. But if you starve that position of viability, if you make it impossible for a Nazi to win an election in America, they've got to nudge left. But you can only starve a position of its viability by having them lose in at least 3 consecutive election cycles. If you pass it back and forth every couple of years, then that position is still viable. And our problem is we're just a frustratingly impatient coalition where it's just like, well, we gave you 4 years, well, we gave you 8 years. It takes longer than that to dig your way out of the. Yeah.
But when haven't we allowed Nazis to hold office?
Good question. That's what I'm saying, though. Is it like, if you're going to go by the also, like, to pretend like everyone has been as far right authoritarian and openly fascistic as Donald Trump, I think is a little bit disingenuous. A little bit bad.
Like,
I think it's a little bit disingenuous.
Well, hold on. Now, you think, like, again, when we kind of go back, I understand. Trust me, I understand the things that you're kind of highlighting with Trump. I'm not saying that Trump isn't a bad guy and super fascistic. I am not saying that. But for example, Operation Wetback in the 1900s is almost exactly the same thing as that we're doing right now. Or if we look during the Reagan years, the war on drugs, like these things can continuously repeat, and they continue to have the exact same undertones, and they affect this exact same groups of people tend to be affected by those things, like over and over and over and over again, right?
Yeah, America is a foundationally and institutionally racist country. It has been since its inception, and we have only gotten marginally better at that in around 400 years.
Yeah.
Anyway,
and that's fair.
It's been about 47 minutes. We've got another call waiting on the line, and then probably got to wrap the show pretty quickly after that. But I appreciate your time, James, and I hope we can come to some sort of understanding.
Definitely. You two both keep staying pretty.
All right. Thanks,
I'll do my
James.
best. No promises. Take care. Bye-bye. We've got one more call, and this one is a different James.
Also
a different
James.
James. And it'll be our only theist call of the night. James from Canada, who says America needs Christianity. Nope. But let's talk about it. James, you're on the line with Forrest and Austin. How you doing today?
Faggot.
You waited for 40 whole minutes. 40 whole minutes. And what gets me about it, James, he hung up like a bitch.
Yeah,
I had him on mute. I was gonna talk to him about it. You waited for 40 whole minutes, and here's the crazy thing. Not the first or second time you've done that. This dude's called in a couple of times and done the same thing, which means and not come up with anything more interesting to do either. Could have gone on with it.
Genuinely the dumbest people in existence and the biggest fucking losers. Like, what a fucking loser. Like, get some fucking friends, man. Go hang out with your friends.
There was no delay. It's like he didn't even put the phone down, have to run back over because he was doing something else. That was his night. That was all he had. That's what gets me. It's the folks that like I'm fine with, like, if you're gonna troll, be a fun troll. But literally, like, your entire thing is, I'm gonna say a mean word on the internet, and then I'll be the guy who said a mean word on the internet. Because no one's ever done that shit before, right? And the dipshit is trying to call back in. Again, for the third time now.
It's just so fucking, like, low intelligence. Like, every time I see these people, because they DM me and stuff, and they love the R slur, and they think that I'm gonna be really triggered every time they drop that one in my DMs, and I'm just like, and they love using the F slur too and all this stuff, but I'm just like, it's so funny. I've never had one of them actually try to refute the video that they saw of me that made them mad. Like, they saw some video where I was accurately depicting them and their worldview and ripping it to shreds, and they can't actually contend with it, so they just go like, I'm gonna say a word that I know you don't like, and I'm like, oh, I think that you like misunderstand. Like, I don't actually give a fuck if you say that word. I just abstain from using it because of like the structures of institutional power that have like oppressed people using certain language and stuff. And but I don't like, I'm not going to like see it. I think they're so stupid. I think they think that we're going to like see or hear those words and be like, oh no.
Yeah, what can I do? I faint now with emotion.
I need to go inject soy into my it's like, and it's just like, I don't fucking care, man. You're such a loser. Like, get something to say. Get a point of view, get an argument, get a fucking, get a cogent, coherent worldview that isn't just this. Like, you have one shot at being a conscious entity for all you know, and you're wasting it being this. It sucks.
I do want to say, though, big shout out to that fucking loser, because he calls in as a Christian.
Yeah.
Thanks for doing my job for me.
Yeah.
Honestly. That's it. I guarantee the guy's a fucking Jim Bob stan.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for helping me show the world how fucking brainless and useless and vapid and empty and just genuine. It would be pitiable if it wasn't so fucking just disappointing. I don't know, man. Thank you for showing everybody that you're not sending their best. This is the brain of a Christian. This is somebody who calls in as a Christian, who wants to tell the world about the good news about faith and Jesus and salvation. That's what you got. Sad, man.
They can't help it. It's like Mark Wayne Mullen, like running and tackling the guy who had the sign that was like President Obama isn't an ape, even though, it's like technically it's like, well, we're all apes. But what he was saying is like President Obama is not to be used at like the current president should not be using racial stereotypes should not be like invoking racial stereotypes about about his predecessor. That's fucking insane. But the fact that Mark Wayne Mullen had to like tackle this guy and drag him out of Congress. And it's like, if you don't want us to think that you're racist, then don't make such a big show of being like, how dare you tell the Grand Wizard not to be racist in front of everybody. Like that, like that's not the way to convince the world that you're not racist. But they can't help it. They're like, you guys think everything's racist, and then they just can't help but do that shit. You guys think everyone that disagrees with you is homophobic, and then they do that shit.
All right.
Yeah.
It's awful. I'm trying to fucking feed this rabbit this fucking strawberry. She's just not into it. I don't understand what she's just a chubby just a chubba bun here, and it's all over my fucking shirt, and she's just not into this. She's not into this raspberry.
No.
They don't want anything to do with it. Yeah. Ain't that just the way? I don't know what your deal is. Huh? What are you gonna say? Say something to the people. Talk about Jesus. There you have it. That's what's happening.
That's good.
Anyway,
that's good. I like the rabbit.
Yeah, she's been hanging out for a little while. Yeah,
I like.
She's been hanging out about the house for a minute. Her name's Violet, by the way.
Oh, Violet, we like you.
Yeah, she's been here just being a mess. We have odd visitors in that Valkai house. We had a tortoise at one time. We had that lamb. We had the goat for a minute, and then the other goat, and then the pigs, and the this now, and then there was the time that fucking boa constrictor was here for a while, and it just things. It's biology is strange. Let's try this last call then.
Okay.
We're gonna take this person straight from the screening room. So, oh no, they just made it through. Let's talk to Nick, calling in all the way from the Netherlands, who wants to talk about oppression and white supremacy and stuff. Nick, you are on the line with Forrest and Austin. How you doing?
Doing well. What's the thesis of your call?
I'm doing absolutely great. I was listening into the show because I watch DZ debates as well. I don't know if you know the guys, Justin.
Yep.
He debates.
He's a host on this channel.
What did you say? Sorry.
He's hosts on this channel.
Yeah.
He hosts this channel. What?
Yeah, he's a host on this channel.
He frequently hosts over here as well.
That's probably why you guys appeared up in my YouTube channel or in my YouTube view. So I had a comment with a random guy in the comment section, and my stance is basically that white supremacy nor systemic oppression aren't real phenomena. So I'm not saying that these things are not happening. I don't think they're happening in the literal, how would I say this, textbook definition of the actual words. So let me just say so many people treat white supremacy as if it is like a fixed objective evil invented by some type of distant identifiable people, but I think that's misleading. I think the label and the way it's discussed today is largely a political construction, and it's shaped by contemporary social movement and media frames. I don't really believe that it's a real thing in the sense of like so for example, we Europeans, we don't call people white or black. We don't identify them with their color of their skin because we think it's irrelevant. I understand that in your culture, in your vocabulary, it's a normal thing, right? You call someone a white person, you call someone a black person. As Morgan Freeman said, I agree with him completely. As I think racism stops when you stop calling people white, when you stop calling people black. I think identifying people by their ethnicity or by their skin color is inherently wrong.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. Because race is a social construct. It's not real. It's a thing that we made up. But,
sure.
But I think this might be a cultural divide issue where like you are from a place where people don't necessarily have like pride in the amount of melanin that they have in their skin or feel like it's some sort of signifier that they're better than other people. I just have to disagree with you here though, because in the country that we live in, we have just mountains and mountains and mountains of evidence that there are indeed entire factions of people who one of the most prominent drivers of their ideological project and political project is the idea that white people are inherently better than other people, just for seemingly no discernible characteristic outside of something about having less melanated skin makes you like morally and intellectually superior and better. And there's no evidence that backs this up. Obviously, it's a ridiculous ideology, but it is really happening. It is really happening here.
Okay, I completely agree with you on that. That could be true. As again, I'm not an American. I live in the Netherlands. I'm from Europe. We don't experience the same we don't have the same systemic structure. We have, in my opinion, way better benefits and a way better social system than in America.
No argument here.
That's my view.
No argument here. We all agree. we all agree. We would rather have your healthcare system.
That could be a shortcoming from my side again, because I don't live in your society. I don't experience the things the way you do, because again, I don't live there simply. But could you maybe just do a tiny compilation for me, just maybe like a couple of minutes, and explain to me like what you mean? Because again, I don't see this. I don't have this perception that you have, and for me, it's a distorted perception, because again, my perception is not the same. We don't have this kind of social injustice thing going on for as far as I can see, or my black friends, because again, we are widely divided. Like we have a bunch of different ethnicities and cultures all living in harmony. So could you give like a quick explanation of what you mean? Because again, like I genuinely don't understand.
I think it's I don't know what it's like in the Netherlands specifically, but I think it doesn't make sense to say that Europe as a whole doesn't have racial language or like racial markers or identifiers or like a system of racism or anything like that. You did say something very similar to that at the beginning, where you were talking about we don't refer to people by their skin color here in Europe, and that's not true.
We don't do that.
Well, maybe in your specific region you feel like it doesn't happen, but I think it definitely exists.
You'll never guess who established this country as an extremely racist place. It was Europeans, y'all, and that's still what we're having today. And so, the main thing that I think is important to remember when we're talking about America, and specifically, just if we're going to use black people as an example here, if we're talking about African Americans, not just every black person, but specifically African Americans. The reason why we have the moniker of just black here in America is because of the history of slavery, and these folks had their ethnicity, their individual ethnicities, stripped from them. They don't know where they come from in Africa. They don't know what their lineage is. They don't know what their specific cultural heritage is. And so they had to make a new one as a unified diaspora forced into this region. And so black, or African American, became that unified thing that gave them a unified culture and a unified identity. And so for me, as a white person, to go up to them and say, I don't see color, I'm totally colorblind, we don't talk about skin color here. While you may see that in your culture as something that's very noble, for us here, that is now stripping them of a fundamental part of their identity that is a symbol of perseverance and strength. And I'm denying them that by pretending that I don't recognize that they look differently than me. And that has real social implications in this country, because it's not just whether or not I'm going to treat them differently or whether or not I value them as a person. It's whether or not I'm going to accidentally use a microaggression against them by ignoring parts of their history, or I'm going to invalidate their experience where everybody else besides me is treating them very differently and expecting different things of them and accusing them of different things and treat it like that's a reality that's going on in this country all the fucking time. So it's not as easy for us to say just, there is no race anymore and we can just throw this away. When we're kids in this country, we're taught that race is a very real thing that you don't talk about. The reality is, of course, race isn't a real thing. Of course, race is a social construct. Of course, there's no biological reality, but it matters.
There's a biological reality, and that's not a
it has a very painful effect on our history.
Ethnicity is not a social construct.
Ethnicity is real. Race is not real. Ethnicity is real. Race is not. No, I said ethnicity is real. Race is not real.
Okay, sure. Race is a social construct because it's where the country where you come from. I get what you're saying. Okay, so I partly agree with you on what you were saying. I just think the view of my argument is wrong. So I don't know if you're familiar with Morgan Freeman's statement and his ideology,
Yeah.
and so I want to just quickly elaborate on it. I don't think that identifying people by their skin color, even if that means like creating some division, because inherently people are gonna think about it in their own social circles. I don't think that's a good thing. I don't think, like you were talking about unifying by calling people white and calling people black, and then like allowing their black history to exist. Sure, I agree with that. Fine, you can have your history as every individual has their personal right to have a history and whatever. I don't care about that. I just don't think that's true. I just don't think that's a way to go about it. I think that okay, for example, again, my culture, the reason why we don't have this systemic problem is because we don't approach it that way. We don't call people black and white because we don't see them as black and white. We actually unify them. A black person is just a guy who happens to be black. A white person is just a guy who happens to be white. It doesn't matter that he has a different color. He's just a human. That's why we don't refer to them as black or white or whatever, because it's literally irrelevant to the entire conversation. It's just a human being. And neither their experiences nor mine are superior in any type of way. Their historical background is neither superior nor to mine, because white people were slaves once, black people were slaves once, everyone was a slave once. Like, you could have these arguments going around all day.
Nick, we agree with you that like there's that like people are human at the base level, and that there's no, I've heard the Morgan Freeman clip. I've heard the clip. I'm going to let you in on a little secret. We actually do have people like you here in America too, in the United States. We have people who live in regions where they're like, racism doesn't exist in my neighborhood. No, like nobody treats each other differently here. Like I've never had a problem with black people in my neighborhood. I don't think of them as any different. I don't think, oh, there goes my black friend. I just think there goes my friend. There are people who think they live in a paradigm where they convince themselves that if we could all just do that, if we could all just stop talking about it and stop acknowledging the institutional and systemic ways that we've been treated differently by power structures, that would fix the problem. The problem with that is it can be really short-sighted and almost borderline disrespectful to the experience of an entire community when you just kind of like brush past all of the different institutional and systemic advantages that you've had, or privileges and things that you haven't had to live with. For instance, in the United States, the experience of dealing with police officers. I was talking to my mother the other day about police officers, and I kind of said like, well, there's not really any good cops, and she said, oh, you can't generalize like that. And I said, well, at a certain level you can, because even the people who join the police force with the intention of doing good, with using that system to do good and to help people, at some point someone in their precinct is going to kill some black teenager, and they're all going to have a meeting, and it's going to be blood in, blood out. The gang politics of that job are going to come up, and it's going to be made clear that you're either with us or against us, and you're either going to make excuses for why that person should be allowed to murder that black teenager with impunity, or you're going to have to quit your job. And those are your two options. And the people that stay, the good apples, are now complicit in this system of covering up institutionally sort of sanctioned murder. And I was saying all this, and my mother goes, well, I had a good experience with a cop just the other day. He was really nice to me. And I said, yeah, you're a 70-year-old white woman. And she said, well, what does me having to be white? What does me being white have to do with it? I said, it has everything to do with it.
Exactly.
It has literally everything to do with it. And so she wants to sort of live in this world where she can pretend like it shouldn't matter. And that's what I hear from you, Nick, is like, it shouldn't matter. It shouldn't matter how melanated our skin is or what our ethnicity is. But it does. And to pretend like it doesn't, to pretend like, well, in my neighborhood it doesn't, everyone's nice to each other. You might be, you might be missing things that are happening to your black friends and neighbors that you're not seeing because...
I'm not disagreeing with racism itself. I'm not saying racism isn't a thing. Like that's the stupidest fucking thing. I don't even. I'm not saying racism isn't a thing. I'm saying the solution to racism is to actually unify. Don't categorize people by their skin color. Don't call black people black. Don't call white people white, because again, that is generalization.
I'm sorry, that is a very Nick, that is a very lazy and privileged solution, is what I'm trying to get across.
Why is that lazy
especially
or
here
privileged? I don't. What is
I didn't call you those things.
About the fact that
I didn't call you those things. I said your solution that you're proposing is lazy and privileged. What I'm saying to you is, here in America, it is not the logical solution. Here in America,
ideological,
right? It is okay. Sure, you can call it ideological, fine, whatever. Here in America, right? Ruby Bridges, the first black child who was allowed to go to a white school, because we used to have segregated schools. Integration happened in the 50s and 60s. The first black child allowed to go into a white school was a girl by the name of Ruby Bridges. She's 71 years old. She's still alive today, and she is still a social activist today. She remembers when she, as a little fucking girl going to elementary school, had to be guided in by the National Guard, men with guns, to protect a seething mob of white people screaming hateful slurs at her because her existence in the school was going to corrupt their children and destroy their society and blah, blah, blah. If you meet a black person in this country, if you meet a black person here in America who has gray hair, there's a very good chance they remember a time when they weren't allowed to use a certain water fountain, a certain bathroom, enter into the front door of a restaurant, ride in a certain part of a bus, attend a certain school, attend a certain church, get certain paperwork like that, apply for a loan, move into a certain part of a neighborhood. Like, they remember that history, which means their children are exposed to that history, and they have this crazy thing called generational trauma. When you're raised in this culture that is so extremely racist, you don't get to just suddenly say, hey, guess what, guys? My skin color doesn't matter anymore. It's all over. That doesn't happen. These people have to deal with the reality of the world that was crafted around them, and we as white people have to help deconstruct and take that fucking system down. We don't do that by just saying, I refuse to call you black because you're just a human now. That is robbing them of their history and their perseverance and who they are and the reality of their trauma and why I have to prove myself for them to trust me, why they might immediately be suspicious of a wealthy white person, a white person with any kind of education, a white person with any kind of authority. Any of that might be a little bit off-putting until they have a reason to be proven wrong, because a false positive is so much safer than a false negative. Like, to just say, as white people, you and I, we can just say, fuck it, or just not going to talk about race anymore. That is lazy. It is not doing the hard work of actually deconstructing a systemic white supremacist state and hegemony that has blanketed the entire world, and it is absolutely ignorant to just say we can wash this away in one generation if we just have an ideological shift and we all just choose to be nice to one another. That does not do away with the historical trauma. Even if we were to change the entire world and everybody is not racist anymore and everybody's happy, those people still have to live with the fact that that's where they come from, and that's what this country was built on. That's what that's what your country was involved in as well. And also to say, yeah, well, white people were enslaved and everybody was enslaved, fuck off. Because at the end of the day, no amount of slavery that was ever done to any white person was anywhere close to the chattel slavery that both of our countries participated in. So, no, it's not fair across the board. It's not even across the board. It is not even remotely comparable. And to try to dismiss it is lazy and ignorant. It's not good enough, and it doesn't fix the real problem.
Okay, I see a bunch of points there. Again, I believe you're generalizing. You're generalizing not just about black people, but you're also generalizing about white people. You're assuming their actions, their beliefs, their ideologies, their constructions, and you're assuming that you do, and you also assume that cops act a certain way because your mother said, sure, I get where you're going from. You're mad about something. There's something bothering you, boiling inside, and it comes up and it outs
police
itself.
Brutality and corruption is what we're mad about in that case.
Okay, sure, but Okay.
I'm not sure if you can appreciate the amount of videos that we've watched as people who live in this country of unarmed black citizens being shot by police officers, and then those black on camera, and then those police officers not going to prison for that and having no consequences for it. It happens so often in this country. It's nauseating. It's disgusting. Breonna Taylor was a woman who was yeah.
And I'm not saying that's a good thing, right? Yeah. Like, again, I don't give a fuck about them. Like, if that's like not in that way, but I don't give a fuck about if that's the way they want to act, then they're terrible human beings, and I condemn every single action they commit. All right, sure, completely fine. But then again, I don't agree with you guys at that part as well, because again, you seem to have this generalized idea about individuals. You're generalizing an entire group of, in this case, you're using their skin color as the identification. So you use their skin color, they're white, and therefore they act a certain way, or you have predeterministic
that's
outcomes.
That's not at all what we're saying. Let me break it down in a more comprehensive way, because that's not at all what we're saying. And if that's what you're getting from it, if that's what you're getting from it, then we're missing something. So let me make it more clear.
Example, or were you talking about all black people or all white people?
Let me make it much more clear.
When a black person sees a white person, a rich white person, that they act a certain way, like, again, like,
I didn't say they did act a certain way. I said that they are justified in being suspicious. Now here, let me make this a lot more clear. We have cases.
So am I justified of being suspicious, seeing anyone with any skin color outside of my window with a hoodie on in the black at night? Like I don't. Why are they justified being suspicious of a random white guy who just happens to be white and seems rich? I do not understand that. That's just illogical. That's racist.
Let me help you understand by drawing a picture, like just breaking this down for you. Here in this country, as Austin just talked about, I'm not actually going to draw a thing. I am painting with words. I am an artist. Sorry, my bad. As Austin just pointed out a minute ago, we have a genuinely sickening trend in this country of white police officers shooting and killing unarmed black people, usually black men. Right down the road from my house, Terrence Crutcher had his hands raised and was following orders from the police to walk in a certain direction with his hands above his head when he was gunned down in the street, right? What happens next? So here we have this case, unarmed black man killed by a white police officer. White police officer gets off scot-free, nothing happens to them. They're either given a desk job, maybe a paid vacation, more likely, absolutely nothing happens. The world keeps on turning and nobody cares. This happens a bazillion times over the course of even just 1 year. This happens over and over and over. What system would you say, ideological system, would be in place that would allow that white officer to pull the trigger in that moment?
That's a very good question. I don't think there is a system in place. Again, that's my view. I think people are individuals. They have maybe crazy beliefs, crazy ideologies. They span together to create whatever.
Why do you think it is? Why do you think it is that black people in this country make up the vast majority of arrests and exonerations for violent crime? They are arrested for violent crime more than any other group, and they are found not guilty. They are exonerated more than any other racial group. What do you think would explain that trend?
I would not know, again, because I'm not American, so I could not speak on that, because, again, then I would be lying or either just telling you a random falsehood.
Could you make a guess? Could you make a guess?
What about the trend? What about the trend? What about the trend that black people are given harsher prison sentences for the same crimes that white people commit? When a white person and a black person commits the same crime, oftentimes, statistically significantly the amount of times, black people get more, like, hugely doubled prison sentences, way more prison sentences than white people get for the same crimes. Why is that?
Don't black people in America represent over 50% of the crime? And they're only about 15 to 17% of the population.
Nick, he's actually explaining this to you right now. He's actually explaining to you.
Black people do not make up 50% of the crime. No, they don't make up 50% of the crime. They make up 50% of the arrests and they make up way more than 50% of the prison population for doing the same amount of crime that white people do. So here we have a system where black people who do this statistics show that across the board, different races don't commit more crimes, right? But we have, and when we do see differences in crimes in certain areas, certain populations, it's because crime is associated with proximity and poverty, both of which are significantly elevated in black communities. We can get to that reason that is in a little bit. But we have black people being arrested more often, being in prison more often, and being gunned down more often. Why do you think that is? What is a reason that we might be able to say is happening in the whole society that is allowing for these trends in the data?
Nick, I'm gonna be so honest with you right now. I'm gonna try my hardest to give you the benefit of the doubt. But starting off this call, being a white person who says, I don't think systemic racism actually exists.
I'm not white.
Hold on.
Assumption. I'm not even white. What are you talking about, dude? What the fuck?
You started this call by saying we don't identify as white in the Netherlands. You said we don't identify as white people in the Netherlands.
We don't call white people that I saw this white person or this black person today. No, we call I saw this, I saw that. We call the event, not the specific race we saw in the event.
Right.
I'm not white.
Nick. Okay, Nick. All right. Okay, cool. Let's set that aside. You started this call by saying, I don't think systemic racism exists. I just don't see it. I think that if people could just ignore it, it wouldn't be a problem, which in and of itself is something that it's something that racist people say. It's something that people it's not a great position, but it's something that it's a mistake that people can make just out of ignorance. But then you went on to do don't black people commit over 50% of the crime despite being only 13% of the population, which is one of the most textbook racist things that racist people in America say.
Whistle.
And it's such a dog whistle. And I'm trying to give you the benefit of the doubt, but the fact that Forrest had just gotten done explaining to you that black people make up the majority of arrests and exonerations, that they get arrested more for crimes they didn't actually commit, that they are later found innocent of, and that they get harsher prison sentences.
Argument. I was asking him a question. I wasn't asserting that was the factual truth.
But he already answered the question for you. The fact that you brought that argument up at
really
all.
Answer the question.
Yes, he did.
He didn't bring up that statistic.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
And we can go.
I'm sorry.
We can go even
But the
further.
rest I could agree with. But that I'm just not agreeing with because it's just not true. I asked if that statistic was true. I'm not asserting it is because I don't know. Again, before I even started saying that, I said I cannot affirm statistics because I don't live in America and I'm not going to lie to you or bring up fake statistics.
But Nick, why did you hear a stat that did you know that black people in America commit more than 50% of the crime despite only making up 13% of the population? Why did you believe that? Why did you think that sounds true?
What do you asking if that was true? Again, you're asserting that I'm believing something that I'm not. I never said that you're putting words in my mouth and I never put in.
All right. Okay.
Sure. Why not? So then let's move on to a different thing. We can talk about the fact that black neighborhoods are typically more heavily populated and out on the other edge of society because we have redlining as a historical reality where black people were not allowed to move into certain neighborhoods or allowed to get bank loans to move into to buy certain kinds of property. And so we have black neighborhoods which have worse property values. We use property taxes in this country to fund education, so black schools are poorly funded, and also there's less businesses and less jobs there, so you have higher rates of poverty, lower rates of education, and higher proximity, which contributes to high crime rates, and also those neighborhoods are over-policed, and as we talked about, they're arrested for crimes they didn't commit a lot more often. Put all these facts together, Nick, what does that sound like to you?
Again, I would not know because I'm here to ask questions, not to give answers.
But we just told you.
It sounds like systemic racism, Nick. It sounds like a white supremacist police state that is punishing people for their skin color and has been for generations.
I can generalize about a whole entire society and that everyone
is on some type
Nick,
how many things Did you just listen to everything that he just listed off to you about the
Yes,
history of
and I
this
think it's more
country?
nuanced than he's saying that it is. I don't think that is just that there's just this massive corporal duty of white people, like some type of whatever you call it, a Nazi fucking, or what you guys have, the guys with the white hats on. I don't even know what the fuck they call the crazy white supremacist guys. The KKK. Yeah, sorry. I don't think there's this whole government conspiracy going on with white supremacy that is somehow suppressing people. I think this is a very nuanced.
All that stuff just happened just randomly. All that stuff.
No. I think it's just a result of terrible integration in society and terrible social values between people. Again, that I'm coming back to the first argument I even started with, which was Morgan Freeman's take on it. Again, I'm not saying racism isn't real. I'm not saying talking about it is bad. I'm saying I'm saying
let's try one more thing. Let's try one more thing here, because I feel like you're expecting a white supremacist state. You're expecting systemic racism to look like a group of old white men who all gather together with a big flaming cross and say, how can we hurt the black people today? And then they all become politicians and they all make the rules. And there's this coalition of all the white people that come together with a pamphlet of like what we're going to do to fuck over black people today. And that simply isn't the case. Here's an example of a study. Here's an example of what I'm talking about.
Guys believe. I'm sorry for thinking. My bad.
In this country, black people are pulled over when they're driving. Police officers will pull them over at a higher rate than white people until the sun goes down. As soon as the sun goes down, there's actually been studies on this called, I think, the Veil of Darkness study. As soon as the sun goes down, black people and white people are pulled over at the exact same rate because you can't see the driver. But when the sun is up, when you can see who's driving, black people are pulled over exponentially more than white people. Do you think that black people commit more traffic violations in the daytime, or do you think that cops see black people and assume they're up to no good and they pull them over for no reason? What do you think's happening?
I believe that's truly possible. Like, bro, that probably even happens here. Like, again, I'm not denying any of it. I don't think these individuals are all to blame for that, and I don't think it's a whole systemic thing. I think it's just a
that is the definition of a systemic thing. When we can say that across the board, police officers pull black people over when they notice that they're black, that is the definition of a systemic issue.
Okay, and when you fold that in with everything else,
where's this systemic ruling or systemic action coming from? Like, who is
racism, Nick? It's coming from racism.
But Nick, we run into this problem with American conservatives all the time that they say, like, show me the law where it's written down. Show me the law where it says that cops.
The law. I'm saying like the construct.
But like you want to see like evidence of it being written down somewhere. Or enshrined in our Constitution or something. What we're giving you is clear data and statistics from generations of statistics of like how racially segregated neighborhoods and those breakdowns happen with redlining, and how like the over policing of those. We're giving you the breakdown of how it has happened systemically off the books, and you're kind of saying, well, show me where it is on the books. But like, it's not a thing that's actually been necessarily written down and codified into law, but it does exist.
There's literally a term. It's not illegal. It's not an actual law, but there's literally a term amongst like legal scholars and shit. Driving while black. And that's the charge. Like, that happens.
Okay, sorry. Let me clarify my question then, because you misunderstood my question. And again, that's no bad, because I understand your view and I understand why you're getting upset. I understand, because if you misunderstood my question, it's going to be hard to understand or even maybe resonate with it. But let me restate it. So I don't, again, I cannot see it because I don't live there. So there we go again. But that aside, where is this coming from? Like, I'm trying to compile this idea. Like, are these just individuals, terrible individuals that are doing fucking actions? Are these communities of people that are conspiring against a certain community?
It's systemic.
Is a systemic problem from the government?
Yes. Nick, it is. Nick, stop. It is systemic and it is generational. It is like, it's like asking, like, where does Christianity come from? Like, where does the belief that like a guy was the son of God and was crucified and then it's passed down generationally. Bigoted views and bigoted world and opinions, they're passed down. That's what systemic means, is that you've got generations upon generations of people who were raised to distrust people based on the amount of melanin in their skin, or to believe in stereotypes about people based on the amount of melanin in their skin. It's stupid. I hear your frustration with, like, it's so dumb. Why would people do that? I don't fucking know.
It's fucking retarded.
Yeah, like, but that doesn't mean it doesn't exist, Nick.
Right.
It exists.
But I'm not saying it doesn't. I'm not saying it doesn't.
What do you think?
In my
worldview,
it doesn't. But again, I'm taking a perspective in your worldview. I'm trying to get into your worldview, so maybe I can agree with you. We can come to an agreement, because again, we don't have this here. There's no evidence.
What do you think? First of all, yes, you fucking do, first of all. And second of all, what do you think the word systemic means?
Systemic is a repetitive thing happening across systems of all board. A system could be a logical system. A system could be an ideological thing. It could be whatever. Philosophical. I understand the meaning of it. I'm not an idiot.
So do you not see how that's everything we're talking about here? These are systemic
I understand,
issues.
But I'm trying to narrow down where it actually goes, because I don't understand.
It comes from fucking racism, Nick. It comes from the fact that this country was built on the enslavement of one people and the genocide of another people. We invented the concept of race as it is known today across most of the globe because we had to justify some people being of higher value than other people, especially with the advent of like semi-modern biology. Like, we are the ones who made this problem, and now we are still living in a world where white people are still benefiting from it, benefiting so much that they're able to do the kind of shit that you're saying here and saying, oh, we can just do away with it. If we just have black people try just not being black, we'll just stop talking about blackness, and then it'll be over. And, like, that's simply not fucking good enough. This rabbit's hair is getting all up in my fucking nose, you fluffy bitch.
Nick, I would suggest...
It's just not that easy.
I would just suggest in this call that it seems like you've got some blind spots when it comes to your understanding of racial dynamics and power dynamics, across the world. And I would encourage you to continue looking into this and continue looking into, like, what systemic racism is, how it has proliferated across the world through generations, and why saying maybe if we all just stop talking about it, it'll go away isn't a realistic solution. But I don't think that, like, it seems like you're not ready to concede and admit that you're wrong in this call. But, like, I feel like we've given you everything we can give you, unless, Forrest, you have anything else you'd like to close with.
No, I feel like we've covered.
I just want to clarify once again that that's not what Nelson said, and that's not what I'm implying. I'm not saying stop talking about it. I'm saying stop identifying people as black or white, because that, again, that is racism inherently.
Sucks. No, yes, so I agree that the concept. I agree that the concept. I agree that the concept of whiteness is inherently rooted in white supremacy, because white is the only racial demographic that we categorize by exclusion. And that is the only one that we categorize by purity, or we measure by purity. That, yes, whiteness is a white supremacist construct, necessarily because of where the construct came from. We see that in the history of race. It's one of the many reasons why we know that race is a social construct, because of the people who historically have not been allowed to be white despite having the same complexion as me. Like, I get all that. But just not talking about race, not categorizing race, pretending that race isn't a real thing in a social sense, talking about not identifying with racial, all you're doing is asking people to ignore their painful history in order to appease your utopian comfort. And I'm sorry, that's not your call to make. And that's not a good enough solution. It certainly doesn't fix anything. And even if we were to all agree to just stop identifying people as races, those people are still going to grow up, pick up a history book and say, yeah, because people looked like you, they were treated this way for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. And now just stop dealing. Don't call yourself that, though. I would say fuck you. Like, if I were to look at any part of my history culturally, ethnically, whatever, and see a tremendous amount of historical oppression and perseverance and finding dignity in the face of atrocity, and somebody told me, yeah, but don't identify with it, I would tell that person to eat shit. And I think that any black person listening to this probably, well, I don't want to make a massive general, because I know Morgan Freeman said a thing, but Morgan Freeman isn't all black people, and I know tons of them that would say that shit's wrong. So, sorry, I disagree with you. That sounds like a very old guy thing to say.
This is my personal view, and again, I don't agree with this whole elaboration on what you think that I believe, because again, that's just not what I believe at all. That's your assertion of what you think I believe. Fine, you can make that. Everyone makes assertion of everyone. Like, that's fine. You can make assumptions. I don't believe that at all whatsoever. I just believe you can talk about racism. You can completely condemn everything. You completely agree on an entire history while just not talking about people like they're white nor black, because we're just humans. We don't have to identify by neither white or black.
Okay.
Well, you've got more work to do here, Nick. Nick, you've got more work to do.
Let's run the experiment right now. Last thing that I'm going to say. Let's run the experiment right now. We all agree to stop identifying people as black and white. Then a little black kid goes to a history museum and learns about slavery and learns about racism and learns about systemic oppression, learns about all these different things. And what do we tell that kid?
Okay, so you're the start of this whole. Okay, I get where you're going and what you want to do, but again, you don't understand what I'm saying, and I'm not saying that you're wrong or anything, or that's your fault. But again, you literally don't understand what I'm saying.
You just said we don't identify as white and black, right?
No, you don't. Okay, so you don't use that in your vocabulary. If all day you go out, for example, you go out all day, you come back.
No, that's fine, Nick. That's fine. We don't use that in our vocabulary. Okay. Nobody says black or white when we're talking about people anymore.
No, you can. You can. It's just don't. When you first see a person, don't say, "Oh yeah, I met this white executive today," or "I met this black car salesman today," or this,
I don't.
Like
I fucking don't, Nick.
I don't do. That's a very boomer thing to do.
Yeah.
So is the entire thing that you just have an issue with people who mention somebody's race? Is that the whole thing?
No. What the fuck? How does that even make sense? I don't understand how you came there, but sure, I have an issue with that. Sure,
Nick, you've got more work to do on this than you realize. All right, systemic racism exists, whether you want it to or not, whether it makes sense to you or not. And you've got homework.
And it exists in your country too, dude.
Yeah.
I'm not saying racism doesn't exist in my country again, because I never said anything like that.
Systemic racism.
Anything like that.
Systemic racism.
No, systemic racism, like you explained it right now, in my country doesn't exist. People do not.
Okay.
I didn't say exactly like it is in America. I said that it does exist.
Sure, maybe to a very small degree. Like, again, I'm half black, if you'd call it that. I don't experience anything like that. Neither do my parents, neither do my friends, neither do anyone around me. We understand the American culture. We look at you guys and we're like, okay, what the fuck's going on there? We understand to a certain degree what's going on, but because we don't have cops pulling over any ethnicity for a certain type of reason, you get what I'm saying? Like, we don't have this over-representation.
You've got more work to do, Nick. You've got more work to do. I don't know what else to tell you about this. You're so convinced.
I'm trying to figure.
You just got more work to do.
Yeah, I keep trying to just say, even if we do what you say, what do we do next, and how do we handle this when we're teaching the next generation? And every time I repeat back to you what you say, I don't understand your position. So, like, dude, I don't know what to tell you, man. Like, it's like just so much worse than I think you think it is. And I think you're lying to yourself.
There's a bunch of misunderstanding between us, but I think we mainly agree on most things. We are against racism. We are against systemic oppression, because, again, if that's a thing then again, I'm against it. I don't agree with any fucking it. That's fucking terrible. I don't want humans to get treated that way. So we agree on that. It's just that maybe I don't know enough about America. Sure, could be a possibility. Maybe you don't understand my worldview or my my ideology, maybe I don't understand yours. Completely fine. We can agree on disagreeing even. I'm completely fine with that. But okay, just give me something, a starting point, because again, you keep on repeating this. Okay, you don't know enough. You don't know enough. You have to learn more. Sure, I want to learn more. I'm learning every single day. Give me an example, something I can look up, something I can read into. I love reading books, so give me something. I will gladly go start it.
I'm finding something.
All right, Forrest will find you something.
Sorry.
Up. I would just Google the words. Here we go. We have the National Museum of African American History and Culture here in the U.S. And I'm going to go to their website right now and see. It's from the Smithsonian. That's you could split that a lot of ways. And yes,
you said National Museum of Black Culture, right?
National History of African American History and Culture. That's where I would start. You can go on their website and you can look up some cool shit that they have to say. Maybe that'd be a place to look at, online resource. I'd also recommend picking up. This is just a book that came off the top of my wife's head. She just popped in and shoved this book in my hand. It's called Unfair by Adam Benforado, The New Science of Criminal Injustice. Tells you a whole lot about the criminal justice system in this country and just how fucking horrifically racist it is. That's a place to start as well.
Okay, thank you. I've noted it down. I'm going to look into it right after we hang up the call. Again, I want to agree with most of what you guys said. Again, I came in here.
The New Jim Crow is another book that people are saying in the chat. That's the one I haven't heard of in a long time. But yeah, The New Jim Crow is another good book. A lot of shit by Bell Hooks.
Jim Crow.
The New Jim Crow.
New Jim Crow. Yeah, I've noted everything down. Thank you. Again, this was very informative for me because, again, I didn't know this type of worldview from the inside. And again, if I watch these videos, they feel shallow to me because they don't really go very deep. All they make is just assertions about how cultures and people are acting and stuff like that. But I'm trying to get a deeper understanding of why people are acting like this and why they're behaving like this. Because again, this is culturally so different and so distant to mine that it's almost, for me, it's inconceivable. That's why we are clashing so much. It's not because we don't believe in the same things or don't have the same basic stance. We do, but it's just we're so far apart of this understanding.
And shout out to the fuzzy logic. I just popped that DOI in my search bar here, and here I have this paper published from, this is on Sage Journals that I've got in the public. I don't know where it was originally published. I'm working with my left hand here because I'm holding this fucking rabbit. But the paper is called Dutch Racism is Not Like Anywhere Else, in quotation marks, Refusing Colorblind Myths in Black Feminist Otherwise Spaces by Ariana Rose. Despite myths of colorblindness in the Netherlands, black women are marginalized by mainstream expectations of racial and cultural homogeneity. I use Amsterdam black women as a case study to illustrate the lived experiences of women affected by this exclusion. In this space, women freely critique Dutch society through mundane moments of truth-telling, venting, and joking, which enable individual problems to arise to a community level. That's just the first sentence of the abstract here. So I would encourage you to check that out. I'll pop the link to that in the chat as well.
Read Between the World and Me by Tom.
You were going so fast, I literally couldn't type it down, bro. I had no time to.
It's, Dutch Racism is Not Like Anywhere Else is the main title of the paper, and I'm putting it in the chat right now by Ariana Rose. So that you can use the link in the chat that I just put there, journals.sagepub.com. What were you saying, Austin? You had a recommendation?
You could also read Between the World and Me by Ta-Nehisi Coates, or just anything by James Baldwin.
Oh, yeah. James Baldwin is a big one.
James Baldwin?
Yeah, James Baldwin.
I've heard that name a lot. I'm bad with individual names, but I've heard that one enough to tell me that it means something.
And write down the title Between. And write down the title Between the World and Me.
Also,
Between
wasn't who was
and me, or Between the World and Me?
Between the World and Me.
Between the World and Me. Yes.
I believe it was Catherine Knight Steele. Is that who we're talking about?
Yeah, I see it already. It's correct.
Is this? I think this is the same person. I'm
I
gonna
see somebody in the
dig into
chat ask him about Indonesians. I'm half Indonesian. Ask me. my father is from Jakarta.
Search.
Cool. My bladder is gonna explode if we don't wrap the show up.
Yeah, I'm
No,
gonna
I completely agree with you.
go explode.
I'm fine. We went rambling for a bit. It's okay.
Yeah.
I'm trying to find this one author that I read in grad school. We had this one. We were talking about black feminist theory and archaeology, and she was really good. I think it was Catherine Knight Steele, but I don't remember her having the last name Steele, so maybe she got married and hyphenated. I don't know. I remember it just being Knight. So I don't know if this is the right person or not, but there was something about I'm trying to find that one last thing, and then if I don't find it in the next 5 seconds, I'm gonna say never mind and go away because I've got this fucking rabbit and it's a whole thing. Black feminist.
The chat is recommending the book Invisible Man by Ralph Ellison. Invisible Man by Ralph Ellison. They're also recommending the book Stamped from the Beginning. Anti-racism and you.
I am a human. I cannot read 10 books.
Okay, we're just offering you some. Yeah, you don't have to read all of them. We're just offering you some resources.
I was gonna go over there. I've got my. Let's see here. There's also. I've got a few over here, like Same Different Equal, Fires in the Bathroom, Savage Inequalities by Kozel. That's a big one. Yeah, we can keep going, but like I don't know how productive it would be. I'm gonna go away now. But thank you very much, Nick. I appreciate the time.
Thanks, Nick.
Same here. I enjoyed it. Have a nice day.
All right.
I think it's really important that everybody remember. Hey, quit it. Okay. I think it's really important that everybody remember that this is a very large rabbit. And that's the show. Austin, anything you want to send us away with?
Not really. You guys, hello. Thanks for hanging out, you guys. We'll see you.
Thanks for being here. I appreciate you tuning in. Let's roll those credits. Thanks, Austin, for being an amazing friend and an amazing co-host. Thanks to Lux for producing. Thanks to Stephanie for call screening for a little while. Thank you to our mods in chat for keeping things civil and safe. Thank you to the people in chat, even the ones that suck. Thank you to our callers, even the ones that suck. Have an awesome rest of your day. This is a very large rabbit. Never stop learning. Bye.